Sleepy town settling for the night, where the Owens women live their lives. And it's about time that the back porch light comes on at that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street. Where's my notes? Where's my notes? Where's my notes? And where's my notes?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Hey, Witch. Hey.
Hey, Witch. Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Spring is here.
Spring has sprung.
It's an exciting morning.
It is.
Yeah.
We're talking about rabbits.
Rabbits today.
Rabbits.
And Billy Zane.
And Billy Zane. How can we connect Billy Zane to rabbits?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Well, not really, because he's 2 degrees from practical magic, basically. So.
Oh yeah. So then, yeah. All right. We already sorted that out. Never mind. Fuck us.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about rabbits. And I didn't notice until you brought it up how much rabbits comes up in all 4 books.
Yeah. Well, kind of. Not as much in book 1, but definitely book 2, book 3, and not in the way that you would think in book 4.
Right. Okay.
Interesting.
And
yeah.
you were going literally down the rabbit hole.
Down the proverbial hole.
I wanted to add stuff in at the bottom, and I was like scrolling. I couldn't get to the bottom, so I'm interested.
Guess what?
To know what you
I couldn't get to the bottom either. I was running into dead end after dead end, trying to make connections.
Oh no!
And here's where it would be awesome to have Alice answer some of these questions, because I'm just like, why would she put that in there? I have questions.
Okay.
Before we start, though, we have a patron. We have a new patron, right? I really hope I'm saying the name right. I think I sent them a message on our Patreon just to, double check what the name is, but I'm not sure yet. So I guess we'll wait to see when we hear back how to pronounce it. But it's either Avicia or Avisha or Avicia. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but thank you.
Thank you so much.
Being a patron, and welcome to Magnolia Street. And we're excited to have you here.
I like the Avicia.
Avicia. Yeah, I see, I make everything Italian. I can't help it. Avicia.
We're sorry if it's not correct. Avisha, Avicia. Thank you so much for joining our Patreon.
Yeah. And then also we had a nice little email from one of our listeners. Her name is Jordan B.
I didn't get the notification because you must have opened it already. So I was just checking this morning and I saw that and I was like, what is this? I was like, this is so nice.
Yeah.
Please read it to me.
So Jordan says, hi, I found your podcast this week, and I think the universe knew what it was doing. I consider myself a baby witch who has been learning which parts of the practice work best for me since 2019. I was raised in Charmed and Sabrina and fell in love with the Practical Magic movie. Finding your podcast and getting to learn so much about the books, movie, and just pagan practice in general. This podcast came to me during a hard time and has been such a good shift in focus. I've been binging and am only on episode 13. Only? Girl, you got far. Our episodes are long as
well done.
Congratulations for sticking it out that long. I'm glad she made it past that first episode hump. I've noticed that our first episode has 700 listens, and then it's like a big drop off of listeners.
We're so sorry, dude. That was when we were using our phones. We were basically having a phone call through the app we were using, and it's so awful.
So if you guys stuck around past the first few episodes, thank you so much. We're so excited that you stuck with us for this long and that you're continuing to listen to us. But she says, I have many more to go. Anyway, this email was a long-winded way of saying thank you for all you've done and all you will do. I can't wait to continue this journey with you. Thank you so much, Jordan, for writing in. We really appreciate you, and thank you so much for listening. And we can't wait for you to hear all the other stuff we've talked about since episode 13.
Totally. I don't even remember what episode 13 would have been.
I think it was Saguaro Cactus. I think it was the cactus episode.
That was the one I was just telling you I started listening to, and then I was like, oh, I'm annoyed. with my own voice. I just shut it off. But it's so informative, and I love the folklore that we found that went along with that one.
Yeah, that one had like a lot of cute little stories along with it. Love it. My favorite story from that episode is the guy with the claw that you were telling me about when you went on that.
We met in the desert.
Yeah. The guy with the claw. If you guys want to listen to Kristina's story about a guy with a real life pirate hook,
like
as
a hook hand.
Yeah. Listen to the Saguaro Cactus episode. It's great.
Are there a lot of rabbit mentions?
There are, mostly in, I want to say, Rules of Magic, and then some stuff in the Magical Lessons.
Are we going chronologically?
I had it listed chronologically, but I'm thinking maybe we should just start with Practical Magic.
Okay, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, because that was the first book, and I kind of want to showcase like how little the mentions in this one actually is. Not in the way that we've come to know rabbits in the story anyway, because by book 2, by Rules of Magic, we learn the whole myth about the cousin Maggie. But in Practical Magic, the very first book, Maggie does not exist yet. There is a little bit of an Easter egg, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
You like my pun?
I like that.
There is a little bit of an Easter egg which I think me and you caught in our Death Watch Beetle episode. We were like, "Oh my God, is that Maggie?"
Mm-hmm.
That's in book 1.
Okay.
But then also in Practical Magic, I don't know if you remember, Ben, Jillian's science teacher boyfriend, has a pet rabbit.
Science teacher boyfriend. He does, buddy.
Science teacher moonlighting as a magician.
Yeah.
Boyfriend.
Yeah. / magician.
Has a pet rabbit named Buddy. So that's most of the rabbit mentions in book 1 are about Buddy. Then book 2, we get introduced to Maggie. Then by Magic Lessons, book 3, I don't remember what the references were to that one. Probably just a lot of spell work, because that's Maria's whole storyline.
Or like ridding them from the garden. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a whole motif with Martha Chase and Faith.
Yeah.
Or all those rabbit symbols. So we'll talk about that. And then in Book of Magic, rabbits, there's not a lot of actual rabbit references, but it's a place.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Okay.
So all right. We'll get into that.
You're going to take me on a trip.
So we're going to go on a little bit of we're going to go down the rabbit hole. Literally today.
Awesome.
Today. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh.
All right.
So we'll just get started with book 1, Practical Magic. By the way, I don't remember any rabbit symbology or motifs in the movie. Do you? Are there any rabbit things in the movie? Nothing?
Not that I remember.
Okay. All right. So Practical Magic, the book. So this starts on page 38. It says, in spite of Sally's admonition, the aunts placed Myrtle beneath Michael's pillow and urged him to bathe with holly and a bar of their special black soap. Into his jacket pocket, they slipped the foot of a rabbit they had once caught eating their lettuce. And we think that rabbit foot might have been Maggie after reading Rules of Magic, right?
Definitely possible.
Yeah, so I did a search on Maggie in this book, and no such family member exists.
Right.
So Alice wrote this before the inception of Maggie in Rules of Magic. So I'm not sure if maybe she had the Rules of Magic notes written already when she wrote Practical Magic, or is that was a newer book? So maybe it was just a happy coincidence. Maybe it is an Easter egg. I don't know. But I would like to believe that the rabbit foot that she's referring to in this first book is Maggie, because Maggie is the rabbit that they think is hopping around their garden in Rules of Magic.
Got it.
So page 59. It makes sense that Antonia's little sister Kylie, who will soon be 13, spends hours locked in the bathroom crying over how ugly she is. Kylie is 1 inch short of 6 feet, a giant in her book. She's as skinny as a stork with knees that hit against each other when she walks. Her nose and eyes are usually pink as a rabbit's from all the sobbing she's been doing lately, and she's just about given up on her hair, which has frizzed up from the humidity. So on pages 151 to 152, here's where Jillian meets Buddy, her boyfriend Ben's rabbit. So Jillian sat up, the white sheet pulled around her, and found that the cloud at the foot of the bed was nothing more than Ben's pet rabbit, Buddy, who hopped into her lap. Only a few weeks ago, Jillian had been out in the Sonoran Desert, her hands over her ears as Jimmy and 2 of his friends shot prairie dogs. They killed 13 of them, and Jillian had thought it was terrible luck. She'd gotten shaky and pale, too upset to hide it. Luckily, Jimmy was in a great mood since he'd bagged more prairie dogs than his pals had, shooting 8, if you include the 2 babies.
Oh.
Yeah. He came over and put his arms around Jillian. When he looked at her in this way, she understood why she'd been so drawn to him and why she was still. He could make it seem as though you were the only person in the universe. A bomb could fall, lightning could strike. He simply would not take his eyes off you. The only good rodent is a dead rodent, Jimmy had told her. He smelled cigarettes and heat and was just about as alive as a human being could be. Trust me on this. When you see one, shoot to kill. Jimmy would have gotten a good laugh catching her in bed with a rodent. Jillian pushed the rabbit away, then got up and found her way to the kitchen for a glass of water. So there's an entire passage about Buddy, Ben's pet rabbit, whom Jillian forms this interesting relationship with. I don't know if we want to read any of that. I didn't include any of it here because it's like a few pages long.
I want to say real quick before I forget, the point is like Jimmy made Jillian so hardened. I feel like Jillian's sensitive nature, we just did the Jillian episode, but like she to me would be like a lover of animals, you know? But the way she kind of interacts, she does like feed him, she feeds Buddy and what, you know, just sits with him. But like to me, she's not as like motherly towards animals, I think, as if she would not have been with Jimmy because he was so ruthless.
Right. And I think that's what this whole passage kind of encapsulates is that I think this rabbit softens her up a little bit, like her relationship with this rabbit, which is really cute. It's like a lot about Buddy and how Ben is the magician with Buddy and all that stuff.
Oh, doesn't it talk about like how like patient he is when Ben takes him to like hospitals and lets kids like touch him, and you know, he's just very conditioned to being a comfort pet.
Right. So I think maybe the rabbit in this excerpt, in this passage, maybe is symbolic of kind of softening Jillian up a little bit because she was so hardened by how Jimmy had conditioned her. This passage is like really showing the juxtaposition between the type of man Jimmy was and the type of man that Ben is.
Right.
And this rabbit is kind of the catalyst for her to kind of realize that she doesn't have to be this scared girl in a relationship anymore. Like she can let love in, you know, and really open up to that love. I think the rabbit in this excerpt is like a really nice little, just a snuggly little morsel to indulge in because it's nice to for once to see her just being more receptive and open to that kind of love. So.
My thought is that outing, whatever that was with Jimmy and the prairie dogs, I'm wondering if like she might have been even pressured to shoot also. Because like when you're like out with the boys and like you're the only girl, they're like, try it. Because they kind of, you know, they probably want to make fun of you for doing it wrong, whatever. So I'm wondering if she like ended up maybe trying it, but like missing on purpose. That's how I would kind of see that playing out. Right. But then to have, because I don't know if you've ever had that in your relationships where like somebody for so long has told you, well, the Catholic upbringing, something is wrong for so long that when you are trying to transition out of that thinking and you do that thing or think that thing, that guilt is still there, you know, and she's probably still feeling that guilt of, you know, I shouldn't be attached to any sort of animal. Because it's always even the cat that he puts in the freezer, you know, he's just so ruthless.
Yeah, he's a horrible human being, Jimmy. Yeah. But
we love you, Goron.
yeah, we don't hate Goron, we hate Jimmy.
Yeah, James Hawkins.
Yeah, but even in the movie, I think they kind of made him a little more of a lovable villain, right? Because he's kind of just like this doofus. He's like a sad little puppy that just follows Jillian everywhere. He just wants to constantly be up her ass. But in the book, they make him a little more ruthless.
There was in like the behind the scenes, I guess they didn't put the scene in, but they're shooting Goron like, what's his name? Griffin Dunn is talking to him. I guess he was supposed to be catching like a snake. And he's like, you know, when you like catch a snake to impress a girl, like do that. So I guess like he had some animal contact. So I wonder like what happened to the snake after, if he cooked it, if he threw it away, what, you know, we'll never know.
I would love to see all of that footage on the cutting room floor. Just saying.
I know.
Anyway.
Continue.
Yeah. So I think the rabbit in this long passage, pages 153 to 156, if you guys want to go read it, you can read all about Buddy, Ben's pet rabbit, and kind of like the relationship that he has with this rabbit and that Jillian forms with this rabbit, and how it kind of like softens her up a little bit to opening up to this relationship with Ben after being succumbed to Jimmy's wrath for so long. So yeah. So then we're gonna move on to pages 178 to 179. It says all day long Ben had the feeling that he was about to either lose or win, and he couldn't tell which it would be. He put on a show at the hospital this morning, and one of the children, a boy of 8, wept when Ben made Buddy disappear into a large wooden box. He'll be back, Ben assured this most distraught member of his audience, but the boy was convinced that Buddy's re-emergence was impossible. Once someone was gone, he told Ben, that was the end of him. And in the case of this boy, the theory was irrefutable. That's so sad.
Yeah.
He'd been in the hospital for half his life, and this time he would not be going home. Already he was leaving his body. Ben could see it just by looking at him.
Oh.
He was disappearing by inches, and so Ben did what a magician almost never does. He took the boy aside and revealed how Buddy sat quietly and snugly within a false bottom of the disappearing box. But the boy refused to be consoled. Perhaps this wasn't even the same rabbit. There was no proof after all. A white rabbit was an everyday thing. Oh, so interesting. So we know that Buddy was a white rabbit.
White.
Yeah. You could buy a dozen at a pet store. And so the boy continued to cry. And Ben might have wept right along with this child had he not been lucky enough to possess the tricks of his trade. Quickly, he reached to pull a silver dollar from behind the boy's ear. See, Ben grinned. Presto, he announced. So I put a little note here. So I find the juxtaposition of the smoke and mirrors type of magic presented in Ben and Buddy's storyline interesting, as it's set into this book about, quote, practical magic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I wonder what Alice's reasoning for this was. I think it's a really interesting juxtaposition.
Yes.
And also, we talk about rabbit symbolism a little later on, and this scene where it's talking about this little boy who's coming to the end of his life already at such a young age, and talking about white rabbits. We talk a little bit later about the symbolism, how a white rabbit could kind of be this like guide transitioning you from, you know, in between worlds.
Cool.
Cool. There's tons of rabbits in pop culture and media that kind of have that symbolism to them.
Some of the ones you don't even think about it. Like it's unless you're a super fan of one of the things we'll talk about later. Like I hardly ever think about rabbits as being like such a big animal totem or you know, a power animal, but they definitely are. So I'm excited to get to that.
Yeah, 100%. So on page 265, it says, tonight, Ben has left Buddy alone to bring the candles over, even though he knows how anxious Thunder makes the rabbit. That's what happens when Ben wants to see Jillian. He has to go on and do it, no matter what the consequences. Still, he's so unused to being spontaneous that whenever he does something like this, he has a slight ringing in his ears. Not that he cares. When Ben returns to his house, he's bound to find a telephone book shredded or the soles chewed off his favorite running shoes, but it's worth it to be with Jillian.
Oh, poor Buddy's feeling left out.
Yeah. So page 273, Buddy, this is at the end of the book now. Buddy is being kept in the attic. Ben is there with him, feeding him the last of the carrots from the aunt's garden, since Magpie has been known to catch baby bunnies who cower between the rows of cabbage. He's been known to eat them whole.
Whoa.
So that's it for Practical Magic, book 1. So as we see, most of this book is talking about Buddy. That's the big rabbit symbol in this book.
I know we already did our Jillian episode, but like it's funny that she fell for a magician because she wanted so much to have as much skill, talent, whatever, as Sally and the aunts, you know, and it's almost like her getting that, but in not the way she expected. You know, like he's a practiced professional moonlighting magician. It's just
So that was the last one from that book, and then we're on to Rules of Magic.
Okay.
Now here is where the rabbit symbolism takes over a little more.
Okay.
Yeah, in Rules of Magic, the rabbit has more of a kind of old wives' tale kind of vibe. Isabel makes up these stories. Well, we don't know. Is she making up these stories? Is this true? These are stories that maybe have been passed down to generations of the Owenses. Maybe to teach them lessons and maybe like to scare them a little bit so they're not acting a fool.
Okay.
You know? All right. So yeah, take us through Rules of Magic and some of those rabbit mentions in that book.
So this page 21, I suppose, is Aunt Isabel talking to the 3 siblings when they show up. She says, I thought you'd all show up. So what's stopping you from coming inside? Are you rabbits or brave souls? their aunt called. A rabbit darts away, thinking it will be safe, and then is picked up by a hawk. A brave soul comes to have dinner with me. They did as they were told, even though they had the sense that once they did, they would be entering into a different life. Franny went first, which was only right, as she was the firstborn and the protector. Plus, she was curious.
Yeah, so that's when they first came to Magnolia Street and met Aunt Isabel. And I think it's interesting that she referred to rabbits as lost souls.
I know. You have more on that later, right?
Which we'll talk a little bit more about when we skadooch on over to Magic Lessons.
Like
and Faith has her own little encounter with rabbits. And I have a little bit more about the lost souls later on. So
this one is 29 to 31. That night at supper, Vincent gave his sisters a look, then turned to their aunt and asked if the stories he'd heard about the Owens family were true. You know who you are, Isabel responded, and I suggest you never deny it. She told them of an Owens cousin named Maggie who had come to stay one summer and tried her best to befriend the locals, telling tales of her own family, how they danced naked in the garden and took revenge on innocent people and called to the heavens for hail and storms. She went so far as to write an opinion piece for the local newspaper defaming the Owens' name, suggesting they all be incarcerated. The family locked the door and told Maggie to go back to Boston. Go back to Boston! The outside world being against them was one thing, but one of their own? That was another matter entirely. Maggie Owens was so enraged that when she was cast out onto the sidewalk with her suitcase, that she took up cursing, and with every curse she grew smaller and smaller. Some spells work against you, or perhaps the Owens cousin inside the house threw up a black reversing mirror. Each wicked word Maggie spoke was turned back on her. She couldn't even unlatch the lock on the door. Whatever magic ran through her blood had evaporated. She denied who she was, and when that happened, it's easy enough to become something else entirely. Most likely the first creature you see, which in her case was a rabbit, darting through the garden.
Interesting.
Yes. Maggie went to sleep in the grass as a woman and awoke as a rabbit. She now ate weeds and drank milk that was left to her in a saucer. Keep your eyes open, Isabel told the siblings. You may see her in the yard. This is what happens when you repudiate who you are. Once you do that, life works against you and your fate is no longer your own. Jet's favorite place to be was in the garden. She adored the shady pools of greenery and azaleas and lily of the valley that grew wild, but ever since she had been told that their cousin's story, she was anxious when rabbits came to eat parsley and mint and the curly Boston lettuce that was planted in neat rows. We'll never be turned into rabbits, if that's what you're thinking, Franny said. We're not so foolish. I'd rather be a fox, Vincent announced. He was teaching himself a Ramblin' Jack Elliott song on the guitar. Stealthy, sly, and under the radar. I'd prefer to be a cat, Jet said. Their aunt had 6 black cats. One, a kitten named Wren, had grown particularly attached to Jet and often followed her as she pulled weeds. Jet had a nagging suspicion that Isabel had told the story of the wayward cousin directly to her as a warning for all those times she'd wanted to be an ordinary girl. A large, fearless rabbit was glaring at them. It had black whiskers and gray eyes. Jillian, wrong book. Jet felt her skin grow cold. Maggie? She said in a soft voice. There was no answer. Shall we give her milk? She asked Franny. Milk? Franny was contemptuous. She's only a rabbit, nothing more. Franny tossed some tufts of grass in the rabbit's direction. Shoo, she commanded. To their dismay, the rabbit stayed exactly where it was, solemnly chewing dandelion greens. It's her, Jet whispered, nudging her sister. Maggie? Franny called. She didn't believe her aunt's story for a minute, yet there was definitely something odd about this creature. Get out, she told the thing. Jet thought it might be better to ask than to command. Oh, rabbit, please leave us be, she said respectfully and sweetly. We're sorry you're no longer a woman, but that was your doing, not ours. The rabbit obeyed, hopping into the wooded area where the beehive stood. While Jet piled up ragweed and bramble, she decided she would faithfully set out a saucer of milk every morning. Franny watched the retreat of the rabbit and wondered if beneath her sister's gentle nature, there wasn't more than she and Vincent had imagined. Perhaps they didn't know her as well as they believed. Page 49 to 50. Miss Rustler, this is the woman that Vincent gets involved with.
Yeah.
Miss Rustler was in her late 30s, the age of his mother. He realized how old she was when she stayed the night and saw her in the glare of the bright morning sun. It was something of a shock. She was haggard and dull, with sagging breasts. This is Justina's favorite passage, but her nose appeared to be crooked, and there were hairs in her chin he hadn't noticed before. If anything, she reminded him of a very large rabbit. Page 56. It was pitch dark, and Franny crept forward carefully, doing her best not to trip over the holes the rabbit had dug. Page 67. When Franny finished packing and went downstairs, Isabel was waiting for her with 2 fresh pots of tea. Franny grinned. She knew this was a test. It was likely Vincent and Jet had already been assessed in the same manner, but Franny had always excelled at such things. She wasn't afraid to make a choice. Let's see what you'll have, their aunt said. Courage or caution? Courage, thank you. Isabel poured a cup of an earthy, fragrant mixture. It contains all the herbs you've tended this summer. Franny finished 1 cup and asked for another. As it turned out, she was desperately thirsty. Her aunt poured from the 2nd cup. Isn't that caution? Franny asked. Oh, they're both the same. You are never going to choose caution. But take my advice. Don't try to hide who you are, Franny. Always keep that in mind. Or I'll be turned into a rabbit, Franny quipped. Isabel went to embrace her favorite niece. Or you'll never be happy. Page 147. Seeing her sister's distress, Franny wrote to their aunt. Surely there was a remedy to help Jet through this terrible time. 2 days later, a crate arrived with Jet's cure. Franny laughed when she looked inside, then immediately went to wake Jet. Isabel sent you something. Jet sat up in bed and wiped the sleep from her eyes. It's not a rabbit, is it? Jet asked. Goodness, no. Jet rose from bed and knelt to peer inside. It was a small black cat, Wren, who had followed her in the aunt's garden.
I think that was in reference to she was mourning either, who's it, Levi?
Levi. When was she not mourning Levi, though?
I know. I know. It might have been either Levi or, well, both her parents and Levi. They both died around this time, right? So she was super mourning around that time. So Aunt Isabel sent her a little kitty cat.
No, kitty cat, little Wren. Page 184. I think this is Vincent. He smoked a joint and tilted his head up. There were no stars in the sooty sky. 18 years of being a liar, he thought. When he looked down, he saw that a creature was staring at him. If you've come for me, you've made a mistake, he warned it. I'll turn you into a rabbit. The animal came close, enough for Vincent to feel its hot breath. It was no rabbit, but a black German shepherd, without a collar or leash.
This is interesting because remember the Le Petit Albert that we talked about on episode 24 about the Owens family grimoire? We touched on some of the grimoires in these books. And this book in particular is a book of homey spells that would catch fish and rabbits, as well as healing charms and ways to render oneself invisible.
Cool.
So we'll talk a little bit more about the Le Petit Albert, also known as Little Albert. We'll talk about that book a little later on. There's a little more about that we're going to touch on.
Oh,
so
God. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting because Vincent was so like, well, he had the Magus. I don't know if the Magus had anything about rabbits in it. And I don't know if he ever read the Little Albert book, but I just thought it was interesting that he was like, I'm going to turn you into a rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Page 205. Vincent's dog was at his feet, his shadow silent and dignified and more than a little mortified when Regina laid her cuddly stuffed bunny rabbit beside him. I call her Maggie, Regina said. Do you? Vincent said, giving April a grin. What did you expect her to call it? Mrs. Rustler? Ooh, deep cut.
Jokes.
April teased. How did you know about that? Vincent asked. Then he saw a look exchanged between April and Jet. Does everyone know all the details of my life? Not at all, Jet said. Hardly anything, April assured him.
So this is interesting because what do you think so Regina is the daughter of April and Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Vincent had nothing to do with raising her. So April took her, I guess, to California or wherever they were visiting her and raised Regina. I'm wondering, like, what stories has April already told Regina about Maggie? Is she hearing the same stories that Isabel's telling? Are they different stories? Like, I'm curious, like, why would this, like, little child, what does she know about Maggie already that she's like, I call my rabbit Maggie?
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. It could be very innocent as to, like, oh, when I would visit my Aunt Isabel, she had a buddy named Rabby, Maggie.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the dyslexia is heavy today. Or it could have been everything, but it's kind of like telephone where she could have spun it however she wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm wondering what she knows about Maggie, this little girl already, right? Yeah. All right.
So page 241, right?
Mm-hmm.
8 officers who had beaten customers were trapped inside. Is this? This is the riot.
Yeah, the riot that Vincent was involved in.
What's that? A Stonewall, right? Stonewall riot, New York.
Was that in New York?
Yeah, I think
Was
so.
that the name of it? Okay.
8 officers who had beaten customers were trapped inside, and when tactical forces arrived as backup, a riot began. Garbage cans and bricks were being used by the crowds to defend themselves. Vincent stood there frozen. When confronted with the enormity of what was happening, the pure revolutionary action of standing up to be who you are, he was unable to move. Be yourself, his aunt had told him. Was this who he was, a man who feared to show himself, a rabbit? He could not have despised himself more at that instant.
Remember when he met, was it William, the man that he falls in love with? I don't remember if he met William before or after this riot. Because remember, he went to jail, right? And then, did he go to jail as a result of the riot, or was that something else? I don't remember.
I think that was trying to get out of the draft. I don't remember.
That's right. No, I think you're right.
Okay.
I think you're right. Okay. So yeah, he meets William at some point, and that's when he realizes who he really is.
But dude, fuck these fucking rabbits.
The
Keep showing
rabbit,
up.
yeah.
Keep showing up.
Yeah.
All right. Page 245 to 246. I hear you are at the riots, Mr. Grant said. And Mr. Grant is William's dad.
William's father, yes.
My darling son has always thought he could win over everything nature set before him, and I admire his attitude. We must fight against bigotry in all its forms and its prejudices that ruin a society. So, says the DA, William said, clearly proud of his father. I'm proud of you too, Mr. Grant said, toasting Vincent. Vincent was abashed. Me? I did nothing. I just stumbled into it and managed to get myself beat up. It's more than that. I'm proud you can be honest about who you are. Well, it's recent, believe me. I have every cause to believe you, especially because you are with my son. He knows truth when he sees it. After lunch, Vincent and William walked down to the shoreline. The beach was rocky, covered with small mossy stones at low tide. Out in the water, there was a blue heron that looked like Edgar, the stuffed bird in the shop. Herons mate for life, and Vincent thought this was a good sign, an even better sign that Mr. Grant had seemed to like him. My father felt he had to hide the fact that he was a homosexual. My mother knew, of course, and they had an arrangement. But at work and in the larger world, he couldn't have anyone know. It would have likely meant his job and would have left him open to blackmail, which he paid off once or twice. It was not a way to live, and it took a toll on all of us, but especially on him. We loved him, and he despised himself. So it made for rocky going sometimes. Vincent recounted the story his aunt had told him about their cousin Maggie, who had denied who she was and was turned into a rabbit. That clearly didn't happen to our father. In spite of all of us, he managed to have quite a life of his own. He is no rabbit. He's a fox. They both laughed. Well, so are you, Vincent said.
So is a fox somebody that owns who they are?
You want to be a fox and not a rabbit.
Exactly. Oh, that reminds me of the saguaro cactus story. Remember the fox claws?
Yeah. Page 271. Once in bed, Franny knew that despite the curse, she could no longer fight what she felt, even if she never spoke it aloud. She thought of one morning at Aunt Isabel's when she had gone into the garden alone. The air was still and dark, the light just beginning to lift in the east. There was the rabbit in the grass. Franny went as close as she could to lay down a saucer of milk. Oh, so Franny's laying down the milk now.
Yeah.
I will never be you, she insisted. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. At last, it was true. It felt grand to be herself, a woman who knew how to love someone. They would simply pretend to everyone except to one another. Franny whispered to Halen all she ever was and had been. She had told him that she had always known what the future would be, and he said that what she said was true. Then she would have known very long ago that this was meant to be. Page 286. He went over the spells he remembered from the Magus, doing his best to recall the magic that had once come to him so easily. He was convinced Aunt Isabel's story of Maggie the rabbit was meant for him, and he was hiding from himself, denying who he was. Now, in the glint of the half-light in the hospital room, he practiced spells he had memorized. Although the newspaper on the cabinet fluttered and fell off the shelf, and a bowl and plate rattled when he muttered curses, the aura of the place soon overtook him. It affected his brain and his soul alike. He couldn't even turn off the bright light that was kept on through the night. He was a rabbit in a cage. For most of the day, he sat on a mattress on the floor. His feet were bare, long white feet that didn't look at all familiar. The feet of the dead. It's funny how I wonder if Jet ever makes that statement, because Franny's like, oh, Isabel's story was meant for me. And now Vincent's like, oh, I feel like her story was meant for me. You know what I mean? They're all taking something a little different out of it.
Yeah. There's a question. There's like a questionnaire section at the end of the book And I think one of those questions I put in here, and it kind of is like asking that question, like, why do we think each one of them thinks the story is for them?
Gotcha. Cool. Page 308. The attic where they spent their summer was a place for young girls, not for grown women who needed more comfortable beds. So they used it for storage. Harry still slept on the floor, waiting for his master, while Wren kept to the garden, where she chased off rabbits and mice. Is Harry the dog?
Thanks. That's his German Shepherd, Vincent's German Shepherd.
Okay.
Did they take it when he was like either in jail or?
Okay. Page 319. One day she, talking about Jet, saw the old rabbit Maggie near the greenhouse, hiding from the cat. Franny had come out and they stood there together. It was definitely Maggie, with her black whiskers and sad eyes. Let's set her free, Jet said. Franny went over and grabbed the rabbit before it could hop away. Now what? She asked. Jet went to open the gate and Franny followed. She just wind up in someone else's yard, Franny said. Yes, but it will be her choice. Franny put the rabbit down on the sidewalk. For a moment, it huddled there staring at them. You're free, Franny said, waving her hands. Go on. Maggie took off down the street, running so fast they never saw her again. Good riddance, Franny said. Good luck, Jet called after the creature.
Good riddance.
It couldn't leave the yard?
I guess it was gated in there. I guess it was, Isabel had it, just confined in that garden.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Like she couldn't, don't rabbits dig? Can't they dig out?
I don't know.
Page 320. You're becoming a cat lady, Franny observed. They chase away the rabbits, Jet responded. Yes, Franny said with a grin, but they never catch them. I'll bet old Harry could, if he wanted to, which he clearly does not. Page 339. This is talking about Halen. Shall I tell you a story about a rabbit? The doctor would say, and the children would always say yes, because they knew the story by heart. It was the one about a rabbit who had once been a witch. They knew that a witch must never deny who she is, and no matter what happens, it's always best to be true to oneself. Hay gave out lollipops, which the children liked, especially when they had scratchy throats, and black bars of soap for the mothers, which were very much appreciated.
Hold up. I like how Halen knows the deal about Maggie.
Right. Wasn't, because Franny knows like what's gonna happen, right? She was like she's told him everything apparently because she knows the end result, and how I guess maybe she knows how and when he's gonna die.
Does she know her own fate at this point from Book of Magic?
Dude, that is a good question.
Right.
Because they could have done that whole thing. They could have done that whole thing in Boston or wherever the hell they are.
Right.
Hey.
So many questions.
Yeah. Page 343. He pulled out a wooden box just inside the fence, filled it with lettuce, and urged the neighbors to take as much as they'd like. The best lettuce in the Commonwealth if you can keep the rabbits away, he told people passing by. They're never going to walk through the gate, Franny insisted. And then the oddest thing happened. They did. His patients and her neighbors all came past the gate, and although some appeared to be nervous, they gratefully took the lettuce. Heads of all varieties, each so good that people made salads of the stuff, dreamed of rabbits and their own childhood gardens.
So I was this little excerpt right here kind of made me think about the movie, because the same thing kind of happens in the movie when Sally owns who she is. People at that point actually want to go over to her house after she declares that she's a witch to the entire phone tree. There's no themes of rabbits in the movie, but I'm seeing the same kinds of themes of owning who you are and being socially rewarded as a result of doing so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there's only one more mention of rabbits in the story, and then there's one mention of it in the topics and questions for discussion section.
Cool. Page 347. Franny stayed out on the porch for 7 nights. The vines began to grow over the bench where Halen liked to sit. They grew and grew until passersby could no longer see Franny Owens in mourning. The bin where Dr. Walker had offered lettuce to passersby was empty. Children asked for him when the new doctor in town made a house call. They wanted the story about the rabbit and the kind, tall man who had lollipops in his pocket.
Yeah, so that was after Halen had passed away, right?
Yeah. And then
that was the last. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you could take it.
No, that was the last mention of rabbits in the actual story. And then there's a topics and questions for discussion section at the end of the book. I don't know if it's in every book, but I just thought this was interesting because it kind of forces you to come up with your own theories and explanations as to why the rabbits is such like a big motif throughout this book in particular. So it says, when the Owen siblings visit Aunt Isabel for the first time, she tells them a story about a cousin named Maggie Sally, who was turned into a rabbit. She warns Franny, Jet, and Vincent that this is what happens when you repudiate who you are. Each is certain, which, Kristina, you pointed this out before, each is certain that the harrowing tale was meant to caution her or him specifically. How do they each interpret it differently? And why do you think Isabel shared this story?
I don't
So
remember
do we want to talk about
what
that?
scene Jet would have like thought about it, that it was for her.
Do you think it's the one where Aunt Isabel gives her the courage or caution and she chooses?
Oh, maybe.
Do you think it's that one?
Maybe that one. They each have their own very coming of age decisions to make in this story. So what was it, a rabbit or I guess a brave soul is what she said, but I guess we could do rabbit or a fox.
She said, are you a brave soul or a lost soul? Lost souls run away from
who they are.
Yeah. And then William's father, was his name Mr. Grant? He's the one, his family were the ones that were saying, oh, he's no rabbit, he's a fox. You know,
he's a snack.
He's a snack. So Vincent's whole theme in this book, like obviously he is coming of age. He has not come to terms with who he is. And coming to terms with his sexuality was a huge theme with the rabbit for him. That's how he saw the story of the rabbit, is like he was not owning who he was and his own sexuality. Jet, I'm seeing like a parallel between her and Sally. Jet kind of sort of just wants to be normal.
Like she plays it really safe.
Right. She wants to be normal. She plays it super safe. So I'm thinking like Jet is kind of not really owning her magic the way that Sally doesn't want to own her magic later on. So I'm kind of seeing a parallel there. As far as Franny goes, I'm not sure how Franny sees the rabbit story for herself.
It seems like the magic kind of gets watered down, like with every kid. So her being the oldest, she obviously probably has the most power, like, and with great power comes great responsibility. And who knows if she really wanted to take over being the keeper of like the grimoire. And like Isabel's like, no, this is which kind of sucks, which is like, no, this is your fate.
Yeah.
You have to, this is yours, own up to this because this is going to be your life.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to die for it.
She was the one chosen for the soap ritual. She was the one chosen to be the keeper of the grimoire. And then there was that scene, remember when Halen almost drowned and she could have either jumped in to save him, but she kind of like held back a little bit because she was afraid of him seeing her for who she really was.
And yeah, he's like, were you gonna just let me drown? And it's just because she didn't want him to know the real her.
Right. Maybe that was her realization of wow, I need to own who I am, because I almost let somebody who I really love die because I'm was afraid to let him see the real me, because I would have had to save him.
If she knows what she needs to do, wrestling with the thought of like, I have to give up, I have to put somebody else first in order to save their life, and I have to sacrifice my own. How heavy, that is something most of us will never have to deal with. But Jesus, like her saving Halen, I see parallel with her saving Kylie,
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And we'll get into that whole book in a little bit, but we're gonna do magic lessons now, which is the third book in the series, but the first one if we're gonna go chronologically.
Oh yeah.
So this all starts on page 141, the mention of rabbits. And this says, surely people here believed in such things. Wolves that would track a man for weeks and devour him whole. Poisonous snakes that favored young women and were said to hide beneath their beds. Birds that drilled holes in the wooden planks of a house as if they had knives on their beaks. Rabbits that had turned from brown to white when the snow fell, magicked in front of your eyes. So I'm not sure what this was referring to. Maybe it was referring to, remember the devotion field where kind of things are kind of like play tricks on your eyes and stuff? Oh, yeah. I don't know if that was in reference to that. Pages 197 to 198, it says, that night Maria dreamed of her daughter. For although iron cuffs did away with the sight, they couldn't prevent dreams. In Martha Chase's house, which we know Martha Chase is the woman that kidnapped Faith from Maria.
I just want to point out, like one of the past episodes, you were like that asshole, Martha Chase.
Asshole. She's such an asshole. So in Martha Chase's house, where the raspberry bushes hid against the windows and rabbits gathered in the yard, Faith Owens dreamed the same dream. She heard her mother tell her that when you were loved by someone, you never lost them, no matter what might happen, despite the curse, despite the losses you might endure. She knew now that love was the only thing that lasted. It was inside you and with you for all eternity. I had something when I was reading the book on my digital copy. You know how you can annotate?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I put, is it a yard full of lost souls in Martha Chase's yard of rabbits? You know how she had all those rabbits in her yard? So is that a yard full of lost souls? Because Aunt Isabel referred to rabbits as lost souls. And are all of those, quote, lost souls, all of the children that Martha Chase may have possibly miscarried? Because we know that she couldn't have children.
Interesting. Oh, that's so sad.
Right?
Wow. Super sad. Do you think she tried stealing a kid before?
Oh, 100%.
You think so? Oh my gosh. What if she accidentally oopsie daisied and they're part of the Lost Souls Club?
What if all the
T-shirt,
children...
I called it.
What if all the children that she's kidnapped, she's like killed?
Oh,
because they tried to escape. Because they tried to escape and she caught them trying to escape. Because she got all psychopath on Faith when she tried to escape.
Mm-hmm.
If Faith didn't kill her, she probably would have killed Faith first. What do you think?
I think you're right. Like, she would have just locked her up. Like, she locked up the dog and starved the dog. So who's to say, like, you know, we gotta look at that triad of like psychopathic tendencies. Is she wetting the bed? Is she lighting shit on fire? I feel like she would have really gone off the deep end. If she would have caught her.
She started to. If she would have caught up to Faith, I'm sure if Faith didn't hand her shit to her first, she probably would have hurt Faith somehow, I think, for trying to escape. So I don't know. I'm thinking like maybe she's kidnapped kids before. Maybe
so creepy.
She's killed them as a result. Maybe these poor little rabbits trapped in her yard are the souls of these poor little children.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you said you saw Coraline or no?
No.
You know how the other mother, she like steals children from the real world and she brings them into the other mother world?
Yeah.
At the end, there's like a whole gaggle of ghosts of children that approach Coraline and they're like, she's the beldam. She's not really the other mother. She's gonna hurt you. You need to get out of here.
Ooh.
So all of these lost souls of these other children are warning Coraline to like get the fuck out.
Whoa.
This other mother is not who she thinks she is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm thinking it's the same type of deal here.
I love that theory. I really do. It's so sad. So sad. Yeah. But I'm still going to make a shirt about it.
I like how you pull Lost Souls Club rabbit shirt. But yeah, I'm thinking that these lost souls, these little rabbits stuck in Martha Chase's yard are these poor kids that never escaped her wrath, you know?
I feel like how freaking AI is going to write a dark Martha Chase story about how she takes kids. She's kind of like, do you remember that movie Tooth Fairy?
No.
That like horror movie?
No, I don't.
Oh my God. Oh, it's so bad. Like, if you see her, that's why you got to keep your eyes closed at night when you stick your tooth under the pillow. You got to just like, don't look at her. And then one of the kids looks at her. And then for the rest of the movie, she's trying to kill him.
Like fucking Bloody Mary. Or the La Llorona. She's like crying because all her children are missing.
Yeah.
Right? I know that's like an old wives' tale in the Mexican culture. Like parents would tell their children that to keep them away from the river because, you know, rivers are dangerous and children should not be playing by riverbanks. So they tell them that as a cautionary tale. But is it true?
But there have been like so many sightings of that trope of the sad woman by the water. Like, girl, this should be our October episode because like
I know there's so much.
Yeah. Okay.
So that in conclusion here, I think Martha Chase is a psychopath and I think she's killing kids. I think she's killing kids in droves because she can't have them, and then they try to escape and then she offs them and then they just become rabbits that hop around.
She's like, try again next time.
Do you think that's where Aunt Isabel got the story from? Maybe that's been a story that's been passed on from generation to generation. Maybe Maria or Faith picked up because Faith experienced it. Maybe Faith is the one that started the story and passed it on down to the generations. What do you think?
I think. Look at your face.
Oh my God. I feel like Charlie Day right now with the red yarn.
It's all connected. Diamonds.
All right. So on page 217, this is still Magic Lessons now. This is in reference to Maria. Try as she might, she could not use the sight to find her daughter. When she gazed into the black mirror, all she saw was a land that seemed to stretch on forever, where hundreds of rabbits gathered. Nothing more.
Purgatory.
Purgatory, the lost souls of these children.
Yeah.
Page 249. Martha Chase had planted 30 raspberry bushes when they came to Gravesend, but the soil was too sandy, and one by one, the plants had withered until there was only one spindly specimen left. Faith had been given her own patch of land, and despite the soil, her garden grew so well it would not keep within the bounds of the fence that kept the rabbits away. Rabbits were everywhere in Brooklyn, and there was a place near the sea where there were so many of the creatures that the land was called Rabbit Island. So they stayed at a farmhouse on Rabbit Island called Koneyjon, Konijon Island.
Coney? I think in the like audiobook it's like Coney.
Koneyjon?
No, the J is a Y.
Koneyjon.
Konyan? Yeah,
Konyan. Okay, so this is, all right, the island by the Dutch, and this is Coney Island as we know it today. They stayed at the farmhouse on Rabbit Island called Koneyjon Island by the Dutch and Coney Island by the... Okay, so yeah. Koneyjon Island was the Dutch name and Coney Island is the English name. So this refers to the ancient name for these creatures that was used in the King James Bible. So rabbits were called, I guess, conies or coneyons.
Oh, do we have more on that?
Yeah. So it was here near the seaside where a Cornish woman named Maud Carty lived on her own. And that's on page 279. So Coney Island, this was published on the NYC Department of Records and Information Services on May 31st, 2019 by Stuart Marquis, Marquess. So Coney Island, from rabbits to hucksters to the world's largest playground. Okay, so this website basically it's like a municipal archive for a little bit of the history behind Coney Island from the days of the original Native American inhabitants through the Dutch, the British, and it says the rascals, the scallywags, the hucksters, the carny barkers, the mobsters, and the freak shows. If you guys know about Coney Island, you know it's notorious. It's infamous for its freak shows and like the bearded lady and like all that circus kind of stuff. So our journey begins with a pair of deeds housed in the archives. The first is from 1645 when the Dutch allowed a group of English settlers led by Lady Deborah Moody to establish the town of Gravesend on land, beginning at the mouth of a creek adjacent to Coney Island, then was spelled Conyne, and being bounded on the westward part thereof with the land appertaining to Anthony Johnson and Robert Penoyer. Penoir? How do you say that? Pennoyre. What the English called Coney Island was an anglicized version of the Dutch Konijn, or Rabbit Island, along with other barrier islands along Long Island's south shore. Coney Island had a large rabbit population. The Lenape tribe called the island Narioch, Narrioch. The second, dated May 1654, memorialized when a native tribal leader sold the land from Antonio Johnson's house south to the island called Coney Island to another group of English settlers for 15 fathoms of seawant, or wampum, which I guess is Native American currency, and also 2 guns and 3 pounds of gunpowder.
Okay.
Yeah. So they actually have photos of these deeds.
These are awesome. They're so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. For the purchase of the land called Coney Island from Gataqua and other leaders. So these are all in these municipal archives. So we will link these down below. Very fascinating stuff. So much of the story of Coney Island's early days comes from 3 books in the municipal library: Sodom by the Sea, An Affectionate History of Coney Island by Oliver Pilot, and Joe Ransom, Good Old Coney Island by Edo McCullough, and Amusing the Million by John Casson. A pair of reports to Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia from the late 1930s and Landmarks Preservation Commission report from 2018. And I guess that's where LaGuardia gets its name from. It's also, we got an airport,
We got Coney Island.
We got Coney Island. And from the mid to late 1800s, Coney Island was a playground for the rich who summered there in such once grand hotels as the Coney Island House and the Big Three, the Brighton Beach, Manhattan Beach, and Oriental hotels. Among the first excursionists who traveled to then hard to reach To the then hard-to-reach Coney Island by chartered boats, ferries, and trolleys were Daniel Webster, P.T. Barnum, as we know, Barnum and Bailey, and Jenny Lind, Herman Melville, and General Sam Houston. There's also a little map here of the island showing beachfront resorts and the hotels, including the Elephant and Robinson's Atlas of Kings County in 1890. I don't think there's any more rabbit talk, but basically Coney Island, that's where this section of the story takes place.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I had no idea that the Coney Island was named after coney or rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
The Dutch word for rabbit. So, interesting connection.
Cool find, dude.
I've never been to Coney Island. Dying to check it out. I know they have a mermaid festival.
Oh, what?
Like an annual mermaid festival, I've heard. That's a little bit about the Coney Island. We will link this whole entire article down below if you guys want to check out more info behind Coney Island. Moving on to more mentions in the story. I think this is all page 280 to 281. It says, "I'd like to repay you for letting me stay," Faith said to the old woman. "Would you?" Maud said. "Can you make me young again?" Faith gave her the last bar of the black soap she had made in the cemetery. It wasn't quite her mother's recipe, but it could take a few years off of anyone's age. "Well, I won't be 20 again using that," Maud said. Faith couldn't debate the fact. "Then ask me for another favor." And so the two went out in the dark of the morning so that Faith could help the old woman chase the rabbits out of her garden. Do you think it's the lost souls of these children coming to, like, I guess, give more messages to Faith, or they're trying to, like...
Wonder if they followed her from Martha's house and were like, "Please set us free. Like, help us cross over. We know you can do it."
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Because, like, they can go... It seems like they can kind of go willy-nilly, but, like, in the rules of magic, I guess, it took Franny and Jet being like, "Okay, go ahead." And It sounds like this is Faith's taking them and being like, "Go on, get out of here. Get," you know?
Because since they're lost souls, the only way that they could cross over is somebody who's guiding them or give them that permission. So I think you might be right.
Cool.
I like that theory. It goes on to say... So Faith helps Maud get all of these rabbits out of her garden. It was a thankless task. For every 10 Maud had chased away, 20 more appeared. Because of these creatures, most of the farms here had failed. "I can get rid of them if that's what you wish," Faith said. "But once they're gone, they won't come back." And Maud said, "Do so." She had her hands on her hips. "I won't miss them." Maud noticed that where the girl's inky hair was parted, there was a pale red line of colors showing through. Red-haired people were said to have talents that others did not. Perhaps this girl had a knack for making things disappear. The rabbits were multiplying as they stood there, and Maud was interested to see what this girl was capable of. Faith put down salt around the garden as she spoke words Hannah had taught Maria to keep unwelcome pests out of the garden. It was a Latin spell, and it sounded otherworldly, spoken here in the flatlands. Coming from Cornwall, Maud knew something about the nameless art. She most certainly could spot a witch. As soon as the spell was cast, the rabbits moved on to Maud's neighbor's place, a good 10 miles away. There were so many that the sandy ground shook as they ran east. Impressed, Maud invited Faith into her parlor, her best room, one Jack Finney had never set foot in, for there was a precious Turkish carpet there that was far too good for the peddler to stomp upon with his muddy boots. As we know, Jack Finney is the peddler that helps save Faith from Martha Chase, right?
Yes.
To Faith's surprise, a black mirror was set upon a small wooden table. "One favor deserves another," Maud Carty said. "Perhaps you'd like to look into the future." And I'm pretty sure this black mirror is the one, this might have been an heirloom passed down. This is the one that Aunt Isabel keeps stored in her greenhouse, I'm pretty sure. The one that Vincent looks in and sees his future.
So you think Maud passed this on to Faith?
Yeah, and I think Faith had it and passed it on down through the lineage, because how'd Aunt Isabel end up with it, you know?
I don't know. Cool.
Yeah.
Good connection.
Yeah, so pages 315 to 316. Try, now Finney had good reason to tease the girl. "Are you saying I'd be the first to benefit from the service?" He was well aware that Faith had talents. He had seen so himself in the flatlands of Brooklyn when she chased away the rabbits and dreamed of crossing hell to find her mother. That didn't mean he wished to be part of an experiment. I don't remember what that was in reference to.
I think she was offering for him to look into the mirror also, and he's like, "No, like, I know Faith has talent.
Okay.
And I know I'm going to die an old man," because I think she tells him, "You're going to die in this town that nobody knows of, like back home, back in the UK."
Okay.
So he's like, "No, I'm good. I'm good.
I don't want to see that shit." That's like, I'm pretty sure we talked about this before. Remember in Big Fish, when they stare into the old lady's eyeball, they could see their death.
A dead eye.
And that one guy he dies on the toilet or something, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he saw that shit. He saw his own impending doom.
Literally.
Pages 372 to 373. And I think this is the last mention in this book. It says, she didn't think of the man waiting in the trees when the rope broke, waiting for her all this time, waiting for her still. Perhaps she flew as crows do, for in no time she had made her way to the shed that had been their home, the roof covered with grapevines and the tumble-down fence meant to keep the rabbits and deer out of the garden.
So it would keep them out, but then later on, it's used to keep Maggie in.
Right.
Ship.
Interesting. All right.
Cool.
So yeah, so those are all the rabbit mentions in magical lessons.
We're going to move on to Book of Magic, but I'm going to let Justina do this because you added a whole bunch of shit. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay. All right, so as I was saying before, Book of Magic doesn't have a lot of rabbit mentions in it as far as, you know, the mythology and these old wise tales as far as the lineage is concerned, like all these stories that the family seems to be passing down through the generations. That's not really present in this last book. This last book is more so Alice came up with this establishment called the Black Rabbit Inn, which I thought was very interesting. So there's not many mentions of rabbits in this book. However, there is a restaurant called the Black Rabbit Inn at which the Owens family and many of the townspeople are frequent patrons of. And a lot goes down here. But before we get into the book mentions of this mundane yet mysterious establishment, I wanted to go down the rabbit hole in this a bit more. I'm going to keep using that pun. I'm going to keep using that pun because it's like perfect for this episode.
It's killing this episode. It's killing.
So first of all, this Black Rabbit Inn, okay, is this place real or fictional?
Is it?
I did a little digging.
Okay.
So there are a few establishments around, not really around the Boston area, but definitely in the New England area. So I found one in Vermont. I found one in Massachusetts, and one in Connecticut. So the closest real life establishment to the Boston area would be the Black Rabbit Bar in Fall River, Massachusetts. They only had a Facebook page. Their profile image says established in 2013, but their last post was 2017. So this place could have very well been closed down due to the pandemic. A lot of little watering holes did not survive the pandemic. So I'm thinking that one does not even exist anymore. But that was called the Black Rabbit Bar. In the Facebook photos, it looks like it might just be a watering hole. So I don't really think it's a restaurant, and definitely not an inn. Like nobody's staying there.
Okay. It's hard to find like that kind of almost like British style pub where it's like they'll serve you mashed potatoes and a beer and they have liquor, but you can also stay upstairs.
Right.
Like you don't see that here.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah. So the next closest establishment that I found is the Black Rabbit Bar and Grill. And this is in Lakeville, Connecticut. So the blurb on the website for this place says, beginning in 2012, from scratch, a custom-built oak bar, booths, banquet, and patio were created to form the comfortable, something-for-everyone atmosphere enjoyed by locals and tourists alike. So that sounds very similar to what the Black Rabbit Inn is in the book.
Yeah.
So this is an actual restaurant, and their menu is available on their website. And I checked out the menu, and they serve dishes like chicken pot pie, as well as codfish and chips.
Ooh.
And we find that the book kind of mentions these dishes. So I'm like, could possibly be the same thing? I don't know.
They have an Instagram, but all they have posted are their menus.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, Alice, do you follow them? I wonder if she's one of their followers. That's how we might be able to find this place if it's real.
Right. So then the last one that I found, this one is called the Rabbit Hill Inn. There's the inn. Okay. So this is the only rabbit themed place that I found in the New England area that also has lodging, which in the book, the Black Rabbit Inn has lodging, but this is called the Rabbit Hill Inn, not the Black Rabbit Inn. Okay. So this is located in Lower Waterford, Vermont, and the menu at this place looks a bit more bougie than the abysmally drab menu that Alice gives the establishment in the book.
This place is nice.
Right? Isn't it?
This place is nice.
It's a little ritzy. Little ritzy titsy. So I don't think it was based on that one, but this one that I found that was an actual inn as well as a restaurant. So I don't know. So this is pure speculation, but I thought it was fun to speculate. Do we think Alice visited any of these places while doing her research? And do you think she was inspired to create her own fictional establishment based on any one of these places that she's visited in the New England area to do her research for these books? I don't know.
I don't know. I can't. Oh, I really hope she talks to us someday.
I know. I have all these questions. I want to know these
Because
things.
this could be like part of the walking tour or our tour or
Right.
whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So then I was curious about the significance. What is the symbolic significance of the Black Rabbit Inn? Why would Alice include an inn by this name? Because we know she's included the rabbit motif through all the other books. Why? There's no real rabbits in this book, so why would she include it as an establishment? And what is it really contributing to the story symbolically? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the symbolism behind the Black Rabbit and see if we can make any connections before we get into the actual mentions of this place in the book.
Okay.
So this is symbolismandmetaphor.com, and it says that in many cultures, the Black Rabbit is associated with death and rebirth. In some traditions, the Black Rabbit is a guide who helps the soul make its way to the afterlife. Where did Jet choose to go on her last night, her last supper, right?
Okay. I'm with you.
Right. So I'm making a little bit of a connection here. So the Black Rabbit is a guide who helps the soul make its way to the afterlife. In others, the Black Rabbit is a sign of new beginnings, a symbol of hope and renewal. Regardless of its specific meaning, the Black Rabbit is often seen as a mysterious and powerful creature. In some stories, the Black Rabbit is said to have magical powers or to be able to communicate with other animals. Here are some spiritual meanings of the Black Rabbit. So, number 1, it could represent fertility. The Black Rabbit is a powerful symbol of fertility in many cultures. This is likely because rabbits are themselves highly fertile animals, able to produce large litters of offspring. In addition, rabbits are often associated with springtime, when new life is beginning to bloom. Jet, daffodils.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just associate springtime with Jet.
Yeah, you're right.
For many people, the image of a black rabbit evokes thoughts of renewed growth and abundance. In China, the black rabbit is also associated with the moon, which is itself a symbol of fertility. This connection underscores the idea that the black rabbit is a powerful force for creating new life. Whether they are regarded as bringers of good fortune, it is clear that rabbits have long been associated with fertility. And I don't know if this has anything to do with Jillian's pregnancy or even Antonia's pregnancy, because there is that scene in the book which we'll talk about when we read the mentions, but wasn't there a scene where like the waiter came around asking if anybody wanted drinks and they were like she's pregnant or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
And then there was reference to, you know, Jillian having her fertility problems. Eventually she does end up getting pregnant, but it takes her a while. And you know how, did you ever hear that saying, like, whenever somebody dies, somebody's born?
Yes.
So Jet dies, then Antonia's baby's born, Jillian's baby's born.
When Franny dies.
Yeah.
This is happening in my family right now. This is my dad put it very nicely, and he, you know, because we were still kind of grieving my grandfather passing, but my sister-in-law and my brother are expecting their second child any day. It's like any day now. Wow. And my dad, usually a sarcastic guy, was like, very sentimentally, was like, you have to make room for the new ones, you know. Yeah, you know, people have to pass to make room for the new ones. I was like, thanks, Dad.
Yeah, I mean, that is a beautiful way of putting it, because like you pass the torch, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I was just thinking of this Black Rabbit Inn as some kind of vestibule or some kind of like,
it's like the Beetlejuice waiting room.
Yeah. Exactly, except there's no guy with no shrunken head that's like has a piece of paper with his wait time on it.
Right.
1,000 years long.
I also want to say, I don't know if I've ever seen a black rabbit in the wild.
Same.
Right?
They're always brown, right?
Brown.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen a white one either in the wild. Right? Have you seen a white one in the wild?
Always like, they're always like spotted. You know, they always have kind of a mix.
Yeah. We have a lot of brown ones around our yard.
I saw a black squirrel at Botany Bay.
What?
I was like, the hell is that fucking metal Ozzy Osbourne hanging out on the
A metal Ozzy Osbourne squirrel.
Yeah.
Dude, I showed you that white deer that I saw that one day on the way to work, right? That albino. It was like starting to go gray or white or
That's
whatever.
crazy.
It was like
You were like the
half.
chosen one. That was insane. It was
I've never
beautiful.
seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
Nuts. I wish I could have stopped and like got a better video or picture of it, but there was an oncoming car that I almost drove into.
And you were like, I have to Marco Kristina. I can't take a quality video. I gotta Marco you.
It was amazing. But anyway, so black rabbits are considered to be rare, which makes them all the more special. In some parts of the world, people believe that owning a black rabbit brings good fortune. In others, it is said that simply seeing a black rabbit is enough to bring good luck. So it's completely opposite from the whole black cat trope. Like, if you see a black cat, that's not good luck, but a black rabbit is.
Right?
I don't understand. Make it make sense.
Make it make sense.
So then in ancient Egypt, it represents protection. So the goddess Isis was often depicted with a black rabbit by her side. Was she? I thought she was all about the cats. I thought Egypt was all about the cats. I had no idea that they were.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not sure. I've never seen that.
So this was believed to represent her role as the protector of the dead. In China, meanwhile, the black rabbit is considered to be a guardian of children. As such, it is often used as a motif on toys and clothes for young children. In Japan, the black rabbit is also seen as a protective figure. It is often used in artwork and literature to represent strength and courage, and consequently, the black rabbit has come to be seen as a powerful symbol of protection in many cultures around the world. It also can represent strength. There are many reasons why this particular animal has come to represent power and might. For one, rabbits are known for their agility and speed. They also are incredibly resilient creatures, able to adapt to a wide range of environments. Additionally, rabbits have powerful reproductive abilities, which make them a symbol of fertility and new life, which we talked about before. They're also associated with magic and mystery, adding an additional layer of power to its symbolism. Ultimately, the black rabbit is a powerful icon that has come to represent strength, courage, and determination. It also represents wisdom. This is because the black rabbit is associated with the moon, and the moon is seen as a symbol of knowledge. In addition, the black rabbit is often associated with magicians and seers, the cunning folk, right? Ben.
Yeah.
Ben, the cunning folk, although his was a white rabbit, that we come to know. This episode. So magicians and seers, they're traditionally associated with wisdom and understanding. As a result, the black rabbit has come to be seen as a powerful totem animal that can help us guide us on our journey through life. In some cultures, the black rabbit is also seen as a protector of secrets and mysteries. As a result, the black rabbit is seen as a guardian of hidden knowledge and truth. And some cultures, the black rabbit is seen as a helpful guide that can help us navigate through life's changes.
I want to comment on the black rabbit being the protector of secrets and mysteries. I don't know about you, but I know I've been at a bar and that bartender knows everything about me.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, you are so
connection.
comfortable just sharing whatever with whoever's behind the bar.
Right. Yeah. Like bartenders and hairdressers, they're therapists and they just seem to know shit, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They know everyone's dirty laundry.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna try to get through these as quickly as possible because there's a bunch here. But so intuition, black rabbits are associated with the lunar energies and the underworld. They're a guide to spiritual insight. They're also a symbol of transformation, and this is again because they're associated with the moon, and the moon is seen as a symbol of change. In Chinese culture, the moon is associated with the yin and the yang, which represent opposing forces that are in constant flux. And later on, we're talking about the black rabbits now. Later on, we'll talk a little bit more about white rabbits and their symbolism. So it's kind of like interesting to see the juxtaposition between what a white rabbit might mean and compared to the black rabbit. So again, new beginnings, mystery, magic, and the black rabbit is a popular symbol of magic, both good and bad. In ancient times, rabbits were associated with lunar deities and were considered to be sacred animals. They're often associated with magical powers, ability to foresee the future, bring good luck. They've been featured in works of fiction such as The Black Rabbit of Inlay by Russell Hoban. I've never heard of that story. And then also the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. In these stories, the black rabbit is often used as a symbol of wisdom and knowledge, helping the protagonists to overcome challenges and achieve their goals. I don't remember a black rabbit in The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I don't think I ever read that book.
I read it like in grade school, but I've seen the movie a lot growing up, and I don't remember any rabbit motifs in that at all. So I'll have to go back and watch that again.
Okay.
But speaking of Narnia. Remember when we were talking about James McAvoy?
Yeah.
In I forget what episode it was. He has a little bit of a cameo in a rabbit thing that we'll be talking about today as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So making the connections. All right. So we're going to jump into our book mentions now. And you guys will probably see what we're talking about as far as can some of these things mean, what's the symbolic significance of any of these occurrences at this establishment, the Black Rabbit Inn. Kristina, do you want to take us through some of these?
Oh God, sure. Okay. So page 7, the only other employee was Sarah Hardwick, who had worked at the library for over 60 years and who still made it a point of leaving early at 5 o'clock on the dot, which allowed her to stop by the Black Rabbit Inn and have a cocktail at her regular time. Often she didn't report back until 10 in the morning, especially if she had more than one drink. Page 15. Be prepared. Franny will have a fit if you bring a dog home. Sally continued to warn her on as they walked along past the Black Rabbit Inn. Tonight the special was chicken pot pie, but most of the regulars were concentrating on whiskey. If Fiddler was playing enthusiastically in the bar, it was the kind of rousing, rowdy song Gary would have liked.
Gary.
Page 32. Jet insisted they have dinner in the tap room at the Black Rabbit Inn that evening. She had already phoned Jillian, who would fetch Kylie and Antonia and drive them up from Cambridge. Jet had made reservations as well, the rear table far away from the fiddler who played there after 6, whose mother had often come to them for a success elixir for her son, though due to the level of his talent, there was none to be had. Are you certain you want them all here on the 7th day? Franny asked with concern. They'll need to be here on the 8th day, won't they? I don't want to have to handle everything alone. Franny had little choice but to agree. She couldn't bring herself to think about the 8th day in a world without Jet. Perhaps, just this one time, she might need help dealing with what was to come. Although the Black Rabbit certainly would not have been her choice for her last supper, she couldn't stand the cheerful dining room, with its red checkered tablecloths and a menu of second-rate New England food, boiled potatoes, baked cod, macaroni and cheese, always burned on the top, along with salads that included only shredded iceberg lettuce and all manner of pudding for dessert. The specialty being something called cheesecake upside down, which the kitchen had been serving to mixed reviews for more than 100 years. Page 45 to 46. I'm tired, Jet explained as she called for the check. We've had a long day. Franny paled when she heard this. It was the evening of the 7th day, the time she had dreaded ever since the bees appeared. They left the bar, and perhaps Jet couldn't quite bear for their night to end. She stopped to order a whiskey. For what was to come, she needed strength. Good idea, Jillian said, calling over the bartender, a fellow named Jed, who swore they had dated in high school, though Jillian, for the life of her, couldn't remember him. Oh my God. Fucking Jillian. Seriously? Sally said to Jet, disbelieving. You don't drink. Now and then. Jet shrugged. It helps me sleep. As a matter of fact, the whiskey was delightful, tasting of smoke and wood. Why not? Franny, who had never once ordered anything at the bar of the Black Rabbit, relented and joined her sister for a toast. Oh my God. This breaks my heart. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
It was their last night after all.
Because Franny knew, right? Nobody else knew.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And she just has to play it cool. And I guess this is my last drink with my sister.
Yeah, ripped my heart out.
They might as well do as they please. To us, Franny said. Jet nodded. Always and forever. Oh my God. And Kylie stood at the bar. Antonia, because her belly wouldn't fit in the space allotted when perched on the bar stool. And Kylie.
Funny.
And Kylie.
You just threw your neighbor into the book.
And Kylie to keep her company. Something for you ladies? Jed the bartender asked, though he was still gazing at Jillian. I'm pregnant and she's underage, and Tony answered, so no, thanks, Kylie said to her sister. I was just about to get my first Black Rabbit martini. Jillian overheard and came over to order one, letting Kylie have a sip. Happy now? What a cool aunt.
Yeah, Jillian.
Oh, totally. Jillian asked. The martinis at the Black Rabbit were especially dreadful. Kylie made a face and pushed the glass away. Why do people drink these? To get drunk, Jillian said. There's no other reason. Do you get the feeling something isn't right? Antonia asked their aunt. Jillian looked past Sally, who was paying for drinks, to the end of the bar where the aunts were on their second round of whiskeys. It all ends. She said for some reason there was no point in getting moody. She shook her head, snapped her fingers, and grinned. Even a night at the Black Rabbit. Page 84. In the past, the postman had dealt with Jet Owens, who was a lovely person no matter what people said about the family. He delivered boxes of herbs from India and seeds from Maine, and once he brought a crate that had arrived airmail from Tennessee, in which was a small black cat who that had been abused, rescued from a shelter. Jet had run out to claim the poor creature while still in her bathrobe. "Oh, you'll be happy here," the postman had remembered Jet saying to the little cat. She tipped him $20 and told him to go to the Black Rabbit and have a drink on her. But of course she had been the cheerful aunt, and Franny was the one everyone feared. Page 103. People at the Black Rabbit Inn enjoyed seeing her in her costume on Thursday evenings. "Where's Joe?" they would call. "Amy's been asking for you," they would tease, which was all fine and good, for those jokesters usually picked up the tab for her drink. Oh, this is referring to Mrs. Hardwick, the librarian, the one who leaves early so she can get to the bar on time. And then shows up late the next day. Okay.
She loves this place. Miss Hardwick reminds me of Grandma Joan, and she's going to Doc Donahue's to get a highball for happy hour.
Grandma Joan.
That was her bar, her establishment of choice.
I love it.
Doc Donahue's. Me and my brother grew up in that bar because my grandmother would babysit us, so she would dude, they had the best hamburgers and like not dill pickles, like those garlic pickles.
Ooh, yeah.
As French fries. I miss that place. Anyway, go on.
I know this section is making me hungry. 104. The library door had been locked and Jet had discovered Miss Hardwick passed out at her desk. How was this woman fucking employed? She often fainted when a dip occurred in her blood sugar before she could leave for the Black Rabbit and have her drink and a platter of fries. She sometimes forgot to eat lunch, and the results were such spells.
She's a functioning alcoholic. Oh, God.
107. Miss Hardwick was in a hurry to get to the Black Rabbit Inn. 5 o'clock was looming, and she did like her nightly whiskey.
Oh my God, this woman.
Page 108. The one that Jet put on the shelf, dear, Miss Hardwick explained. The Book of the Raven. Sally turned terribly pale upon hearing the news. She looked as if she might faint. What book was this? Would you like to join me for a drink? Miss Hardwick suggested. Not only was the whiskey excellent at the Black Rabbit, but the martinis were famous for the punch they packed. And tonight the special was meatloaf, a local favorite. God, this woman.
Yeah.
357. The Owens family from Maine was there, told in no uncertain terms to keep the family secrets to themselves. And the New York Owenses were all staying at the Black Rabbit Inn, while the members of the Diaz-Owens. Dude, that's crazy that there's 2 separate Owens lines.
Yeah.
Which one day we'll get there.
Wait, were you going to say what I thought you were going to say?
What was I going to say?
Like Maria and Samuel finally shacked up and created some kind of bloodline? Like,
no, they did. It says it at the end of this book.
It did say it? Okay.
Yes. The Diaz-Owens contingent from California had arrived, speaking Portuguese among one another. This also reminds me of like the scene in Twilight when like all the vampires come together among one another, all of them dark and good looking. Page 358. On the 3rd day of his visit, Vincent was no longer alone. An English gentleman had joined him, arriving in time for the weekend, and he and Vincent were soon ensconced in the bridal suite at the Black Rabbit Inn.
Yeah, this place, I'm telling you, it like seems like it's such an ingrained part of their lives, but why are we waiting to hear about it until the last book? Why all of a sudden it's like now its own character, right? Why didn't it appear in any of the other books?
I'm wondering if because like the Owens family house was, you know, like in the movie at least, all the women live there. But in the books, Sally moves away to New York, Jillian moved in with Ben Fry, and then the girls are grown up, so they're in college and like life moves on. So maybe it's not like a convenient, I don't know, place for the story plot to progress.
The house, you mean?
Yeah, the house.
So you think that she needed another kind of like middle ground?
Yeah.
For all the family members to come through?
Right. And like it allows for outside characters, I guess, to come into the picture more fluidly.
You're right.
Page 365. Sally locked up the library for the last time, then ran all the way to the inn. She was the last to arrive. This is like at the very end, I think.
Yeah.
And then threw up her hands, flustered by the size of the crowd at the Black Rabbit and all the fuss that was made when she walked in and everyone shouted, "Congratulations!" hands and applauded like mad. She wasn't used to being the center of attention, but after her first cocktail, a feeling of recklessness came over her. After her third, a signature drink that Jillian had concocted called the Toad.
Interesting.
Which included crushed mint, vodka, grapefruit juice, and rosemary with a splash of rum. We're making this. We're making this drink. Highlight this. We're coming back to it. Sally got up on the bar of the tap room with Jillian for a hilarious chorus of Lady Gaga's Bad Romance.
Oh, hold up. I love that the Owens girls listen to Lady Gaga.
I know, dude. It's so refreshing. It's like, wow, they are living in time.
They're human. Yeah, they're of our time.
So on that same page, I believe, the Black Rabbit was so crowded there was a line out the door. Many of the clients who had come to the Owenses for cures over the years were in attendance, along with the board of the library and the mothers of the children who steadfastly brought their children to story hour and who, if the truth be told, hung around the edges of the room to hear what happened next. Miss Hardwick gave a speech dressed as Emily Dickinson, all in white.
Yeah, it also goes on to say that Miss Hardwick, I think it's in this same passage, a couple lines later, I don't know why I didn't include it. She apparently she passed away in bed, I think, reading a book or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It kind of wraps up her whole storyline. Like,
that's so sweet.
Alice tells us what ends up happening to her, but
I wonder, I'm now picturing the woman, like the historian woman in the movie, would meet an untimely death.
Yeah.
Talking to Gary as Miss Hardwick, but that's not her name, I don't think, in the movie.
But we can give her that name. That can be Miss Hardwick from now on.
All right. All right.
I like it. So yeah, that's pretty much all the mentions in the Book of Magick as far as the Black Rabbit Inn go, and I could only find 2 other mentions of rabbits in this book. So page 277, it says Kylie did feel her spirits lift when she was in the forest. A fern, a leaf, a tree, a path. All of it was comforting and reminded her of home. She had been thinking of the house on Magnolia Street all day, missing it terribly, but remembering the time she and Antonia had sneaked into the garden at dusk to look for rabbits. Oh, that was cute.
How magical.
Yeah. And then this last mention, well, that was on page 277. This one comes a little earlier in the book, but I put it second just so we can focus on it a little more. Mm-hmm. So page 163, it says, fortunately, most of the volumes in his collection talking about Ian was more well behaved than the ones in the dark cabinet. Little Albert, Le Petit Albert, which contained homey spells that would catch fish and rabbits, along with healing charms and ways to render oneself invisible. And we talked a little bit about that little excerpt on our Grimoire episode that we just released. You guys want to go back and listen to that? That's a fascinating episode about all the grimoires. But this grimoire, Le Petit Albert, you can actually purchase this on Amazon for your Kindle reader for $1.50.
Oh my God.
I bought it because
you did? Cool.
I purchased it because I wanted to do a search on it for rabbits just to see what it had to say about these, quote, homey spells.
Cool. Okay, great.
That would catch fish and rabbits. I found a lot of fish mentions in this book. However, I only found 1 mention of rabbits in the entire book, but it was in reference to a whole section on how to ward off wolves.
Fucking lit. Okay.
Yeah. So it's on page 31 and it says, if you wear on your body the eyes and heart of a dog that died by violence, you will not need to fear wolves and they will flee like cowardly rabbits.
Oh my goodness.
That's the only mention of rabbits in the entire book. So I don't know where Alice got the whole homey spells that would catch fish and rabbits. I don't know where she got that from.
Interesting.
Because this book makes no mention, it doesn't mention anything about catching rabbits. It just uses rabbits as, I guess, they just talk about cowardly rabbits in reference to warding off wolves. So,
and also, we don't condone animal cruelty. Like, don't do this.
Yeah, no.
Find other ways.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to just show what the book said because I was interested about the reference Alice put in the story, and I was like, where did she get this from? What does it mean? Like, But it doesn't seem like it really goes anywhere. I don't know where.
But does it?
But does it? So, but I did some searches on the term hare. Hare, however, and a few more mentions came up. So the first one is on page 16, and this is to obtain love. By the way, I guess this is like a spell book of the sorts. Like there's
it's a grimoire,
random little spells for random little things, and this one to obtain love says, on a Friday in spring, put to dry in the oven in a small pot, as stated above, the hippomanes along with the ears of a hare and the liver of a dove. The dove.
The fuck? Cool.
So the dove and the hare are combined in this pot. Dry it into a powder and say the name of the person you wish to be loved by while it's drying. Consume a bit of the powder about the size of of a drachma. You know what a drachma is?
I'll look that up.
And if the effect does not follow the first time, repeat up to 3 times and you will be loved. So on page 20, another method, it says, all right.
A drachma is Greek money. It's a silver coin in ancient Greece.
Oh.
It looks like the size of a quarter.
Okay. Would that be considered like, you know how like a dram is like a measurement of liquid? Like, so I'm wondering if it's like an old term for dram, maybe?
Well, dram for liquid. What about a since it's a dry powder?
Oh.
That could be the measurement. You know how you powder their solids and liquids measure differently?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So on page 20, it says another method. This one was cracking me the fuck up. So this one says, if the husband finds his wife to be lacking passion in bed and wishes to please her because his own physical skills are lacking, he should eat the kidneys of a crow and a hare's belly seasoned with fine spices once in a while with arugula, celery, and rose hips with vinegar.
Just toss it like Mrs. Dash on the fucking rabbit liver.
Yeah, if his own physical skills are lacking. It's hysterical.
Yikes.
And then the last one is on page 76, and this is the secret garter for travelers. You will collect a grass called mugwort in the time that the sun, this is very specific, the sun enters the 1st degree of Capricorn, and dry it in the shade. Make as well thin bands of flesh from a young hare, that is to say, having cut the hare's skin belts of the width of 2 inches, you will redouble the same in which you sow the same mugwort. Wear these upon your legs, and there is no horse that will be able to keep pace with you. So if you do this, you'll be able to run faster than a fucking horse. This is
game changer.
You gotta strap this shit to your legs. And then going off, like, just like, I guess, snowballing off this whole Petit Albert, this little Albert stuff. When I was Googling little Albert, I also found this Google search result that piqued my interest in association with rabbits, because I was on my journey down this proverbial rabbit hole and I wanted to leave no stone unturned. And this introduced me to the Little Albert experiment. Mind you, this has absolutely nothing to do with the book, the occult book, The Little Albert.
Okay.
It's merely a coincidence.
Okay.
Or is it?
Oh, God.
No, I don't know. It might be a coincidence. It might not be, but I thought this was super interesting. I got all this off of wikipedia.org, but I'm sure there's other sites about this. So the Little Albert experiment was a study that the mid-20th century psychologists interpret as evidence of classical conditioning in humans. The study is also claimed to be an example of stimulus generalization, although reading the research report shows that fear did not generalize by color or tactile qualities. It was carried out by John B. Watson and his graduate student Rosalie Rayner at Johns Hopkins University. The results were first published in the February 1920 issue of the Journal of Experimental Psychology. So, after observing children in the field, Watson hypothesized that the fearful response of children to loud noises is an innate, unconditioned response. He wanted to test the notion that by following the principles of the procedure, now known as classical conditioning, he could use this unconditioned response to condition a child to fear a distinctive stimulus that normally would not be feared by the child. In this case, furry objects. You see where I'm going with this.
This is fucked up.
Yeah. However, he admitted in his research article that the fear he generated was neither strong nor lasting. How does he fucking know that?
How do you scale that or measure
right.
that?
Like, I'm sure a lot
later on in life.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure a lot of like people don't think that trauma, like, you know, when you have a parent and they take you to see a scary movie as a kid, they're like, oh, they'll get over it. And then that shit ends up traumatizing you later in life. No, you will not get over it. Yeah. Like, you know, how do they gauge that? So here's the method. So the aim of Watson and Rayner was to condition a phobia in an emotionally stable child. For this study, they chose a 9-month-old infant from a hospital. The child was referred to as a, quote, Albert for the experiment. Watson followed the procedures with an Ivan Pavlov. Why can't I say that name? Ivan Pavlov had used in his experiment with dogs. We've all heard of Pavlov's bell, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So before the experiment, Albert, this child for the experiment, was given a battery of baseline emotional tests, and the infant was exposed briefly and for the first time to a white rat, a rabbit, a dog, a monkey, and masks, with and without hair, cotton, wool, burning newspapers, and other stimuli. Albert showed no fear of any of these items during the baseline tests.
I wonder why.
Yeah. So for the experiment proper, by which point Albert was 11 months old, he was put on a mattress on a table in the middle of a room. A white laboratory rat was placed near Albert and he was allowed to play with it. At this point, Watson and Rayner made a loud sound behind Albert's back by striking a suspended steel bar with a hammer each time the baby touched the rat. That is so fucked up.
It's messed up.
Albert responded to the noise by crying and showing fear. After several such pairings of the two stimuli, Albert was presented with only the rat. Upon seeing the rat, Albert became very distressed, crying and crawling away. Apparently, the infant associated the white rat with the noise. The rat, originally a neutral stimulus, had become a conditioned stimulus and was eliciting an emotional response, which a conditioned response, similar to the distress, unconditioned response, originally given to the noise, unconditioned stimulus. In further experiments, little Albert seemed to generalize his response to the white rat. He became distressed at the sight of several other furry objects, such as a rabbit, a furry dog, and a sealskin coat, and even a Santa Claus mask with white cotton balls in the beard. However, this stimulus generalization did not extend to everything with hair. Watson's experiments had many failings by modern standards. For example, it had only a single subject and no control subjects. Furthermore, such an experiment could be hard to conduct in compliance with current laws and regulations. Gee, I wonder the fuck why.
Oh my God.
I wonder why. So fucked up, right, Coraline? Right? It's so fucked up.
Fucked up, Mom.
Yeah. So subsequent events. Albert was about 1 year old at the end of the experiment. So this was going on until this kid turned 1.
So
he's been traumatized for a whole friggin' year of the first year of his entire life.
Wow. They started when he was 10 months old.
Yeah.
I think it said. So
okay, so a few months.
Couple months, but still.
Yeah.
A couple months too long.
Still, yeah. And he reportedly left the hospital shortly after. Though Watson had discussed what might be done to remove Albert's conditioned fears, he chose not to attempt such desensitization with Albert, and it is thought likely that the infant's fears of furry things continued post-experimentally.
Oh my God.
So he traumatized this poor kid for life.
What year was this?
1920. It says the first results were published in February of 1920.
God damn.
So Watson later gave a series of weekend lectures describing the little Albert study. One of these lectures was attended by Mary Cover-Jones, which sparked her interest in pursuing graduate work in psychology. Jones conducted an experiment to figure out how to eliminate fear responses in children and studied a boy named Peter, who was 2 years old. Peter shared similar fears of white rabbits and furry objects as little Albert. Jones was able to increase Peter's tolerance of white rabbits by exposing him to the animal known as direct conditioning and having Peter interact with children who were not afraid of the rabbit. Mary Cover-Jones was the first psychologist to desensitize or uncondition a fear response and became known as the mother of behavioral therapy.
Wow.
Crazy. Right?
Wow.
Kristina's speechless. She has no words.
No words. On a baby? Like, who's
baby.
allowing their child to be a part of an experiment like that?
Right. Yeah.
Better be prepared to pay for therapy.
Yeah, man. And scaring it with fluffy things that are a child's supposed to like love little
Comforted
fluffy
by
animals, comforted. Yeah. And this poor kid is traumatized for life. Yeah. The stuff you find when you go down the rabbit hole.
Is there a rabbit card for after our break?
I don't think so. Because again, because rabbits were not a motif in the movie. And I know he puts some in motif stuff in from the books into the deck, like the Aura card and I think the Fireflies, but I don't think there's anything on rabbits in the deck.
All right, guys, when we come back, we're going to go over more folklore, history. We're going to talk about the year of the rabbit, which we are currently in. I didn't know this until we started doing these notes. I'm like, Chinese zodiac, kind of a big thing. And I'm like, we're in the year of the rabbit. And lots more. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to Magnolia Street Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you're enjoying this topic so far, and please let us know what you think of, I guess, the Black Rabbit Inn. Like, why do you think Alice would throw that in there? I don't know.
You know who else was excited about this episode? Ooh, Alice Hoffman.
She was excited about this episode. She actually wrote to us.
We gave her a little sneak peek of what was to come, and she pointed out rabbits. She was happy to see that was on the list.
So now that we know, well, we know because she put it in the book so much, but if we ever do get her on the show and are able to question her, we're going to ask her about these goddamn rabbits. The rabbits. What about the rabbits?
Shuffle them up, Buttercup.
All right, we're going to shuffle from the Inner Witch Oracle. There we go. All right, tell me when to stop.
Stop. Practical magic.
Practical magic. This card is the practical magic card. It's got a moon on it with a witch hat on the moon and a broom going zoom, zoom, zoom.
Okay.
You like my rhymes?
I like your rap.
Yeah, so the keyword on this card is energy. So let's see. How can we
the Energizer Bunny?
Like the Energizer Bunny. I was going to say, how can we spin this to have it, go with the theme, but you just did it. Kristina just went boom. Here it is.
Here it is.
Here we go. So the keyword on the card says energy, also universal energy and spirit. So this card represents the fifth element, spirit, a non-physical energy that exists within and above all other elements. Attune your energy with this divine energy. The universe supports you. Connect yourself with all of the elemental energies to engage your practical magic. This card is telling you to fully connect with the four elements to bring forth this magical fifth energy and connection. Feel the earth, listen to the wind, drink the water, and witness the fire. Harness the power of these energies with physical representations or a candle for each color. You can also use the power of one white candle to represent connection to all. Use the power of this card and its affirmation to enhance the magic in your life. And the mantra on this card is, I embrace my magic. Look at
never
that.
deny who you are.
Deny who you are, or you'll turn into a rabbit. There you go. That's the connection.
It works.
And also, if we are thinking about that fifth element, that spirit, that non-physical energy that exists between and within and above all other elements, we already talked a little bit before about how the rabbit can signify that guide, that kind of guides you between worlds. I love how we always
symbolism.
Yeah, the symbolism. And I love how we always find a way to connect the card, even if it's not so obvious right at first, how we always find a way to connect it with what we're actually talking about. So really cool. So thank you, Joseph, for that little tidbit. And also, we just want to remind you guys that if you use Magnolia Magic on groundedbythemoon.com, you can get 10% off your entire order at checkout. So just wanted to remind you.
Lit. So we're going to dive into a little bit about the religious role of the hair in a couple different cultures, and obviously throw in those pagan origins and go over some folklore. So we just passed the season of Easter, which a lot of us know. Some of us might not know that it was a celebration of the spring equinox before it was ever called Easter. But Easter is a celebration of spring and new life, so eggs and flowers are a rather obvious symbol of female fertility, but in European traditions, the bunny, with its amazing reproductive potential, is not far behind. In European traditions, the Easter bunny is known as the Easter hare. The symbolism of the hare has had many tantalizing rituals and religious roles down through the years. Hares are given ritual burials alongside humans during the Neolithic age in Europe. Archaeologists have interpreted this as a religious ritual, with hares representing rebirth. So over 1,000 years during the Iron Age, ritual burials of hares were common, and in 51 BC, Julius Caesar mentioned that in Britain, hares were not eaten due to their religious significance. So Caesar would likely have known that in the classical Greek tradition, hares were sacred to Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Meanwhile, Aphrodite's son, Eros, was often depicted carrying a hare as a symbol of unquenchable desire.
Wow.
From the Greek world through the Renaissance, hares often appear as symbols of sexuality in literature and art. For example, the Virgin Mary is often shown with a little white hare or rabbit, symbolizing that she overcame sexual temptation.
Oh, damn.
I don't know if I've ever seen one of those.
I don't think I've ever seen her with a white hair or rabbit.
But keep a lookout now,
Yeah. The same with the Isis, the Egyptian goddess. Like, I don't think I've ever noticed her with a rabbit or a hare either.
I think I've seen the rabbit as like a hieroglyph before, but I don't know if I've ever seen it in her imagery. I don't know.
Okay.
Let us know, guys.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
Hare meat and witches' mischief. What is this? This is a folk tradition of England and Germany that the figure of the hare is specifically connected to Easter. Accounts from the 1600s in Germany describe children hunting for Easter eggs hidden by the Easter hare, much as in the contemporary United States today. Written accounts from England around the same time also mention the Easter hare, particularly in terms of traditional Easter hare hunts and the eating of hare meat at Easter. I'd never heard of this. One tradition known as the hare pie scramble was held at Hallaton, a village in Leicestershire, England, which involved eating a pie made with hare meat and people, quote, scrambling for a slice. In 1790, the local parson tried to stop the custom due to its pagan association, but he was unsuccessful, and the custom continues in that village until this day. I like how the pagans are like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, goddamn.
The eating of the hare may have been associated with various long-standing folk traditions of scaring away witches at Easter. Throughout Northern Europe, folk traditions record a strong belief that witches would often take the form of the hare, usually for causing mischief, such as stealing milk from neighbors' cows. Witches in medieval Europe were often believed to be able to suck out the life energy of others, making them ill and suffer. The idea that the witches of winter should be banished at Easter is a common European folk motif, appearing in several festivities and rituals. The spring equinox, with its promise of new life, was held symbolically in opposition to the life-draining activities of witches and winter. This idea provides the underlying rationale behind various festivities and rituals, such as Osterfeuer or the Easter fire, a celebration in Germany involving large outdoor bonfires meant to scare away the witches. In Sweden, the popular folklore states that at Easter, the witches all fly away on their broomsticks to feast and dance with the devil on the legendary island of Blakula in the Baltic Sea.
In metal.
Yeah, so metal.
So speaking of witches, pagan origins, dating back. So we're going to talk about 1835. The folklorist Jacob Grimm, one of the famous team of the fairy tale Grimm brothers, argued that the Easter hare was connected with a goddess whom he imagined would have been called Ostara in ancient Germany. He derived the name from the Anglo-Saxon goddess Oster, that Bede, an Anglo-Saxon monk considered to be the father of English history, mentioned in 731. Bede, is that how you'd say that?
I don't know. Is it Bede or Bade or
Bede? B-E-D-E.
Yeah, Bede.
Bede?
Bede.
Bede. Bede noted that in 8th century England, the month of April was called Ostermonth, or Oster month, named after the goddess Oster. Ostra?
I always said Eostra.
Eostra. He wrote that a pagan festival in spring in the name of the goddess had become assimilated into the Christian celebration of the resurrection of Christ.
Yeah.
It's interesting that while most European languages refer to the Christian holiday with names that come from the Jewish holiday of Passover, such as Pâques in French or Påsk in Swedish, German, and English languages retain this older, non-biblical word Easter. Recent archaeological research appears to confirm the worship of Oster in parts of England and in Germany, with the hare as her main symbol. The Easter bunny, therefore, seems to recall these pre-Christian celebrations of spring, heralding by the vernal equinox and personified by the goddess Eoster. I keep saying it different every time.
Yeah, you do.
After a long, cold northern winter, it seems natural enough for people to celebrate themes of resurrection and rebirth. The flowers are blooming, birds are laying eggs, and baby bunnies are hopping about. As new life emerges in spring, the Easter bunny hops back once again, providing the long-standing cultural symbol to remind us of the cycles and stages of our own lives. Yeah, I think Ostara is, like they said, more of a newer thing, 1835. Mm-hmm. You know, the spring equinox was just the spring equinox. It didn't really have a name until it sounds like one of the Grimm brothers was like, it sounds like it could be this goddess.
Right. Yeah. And then wasn't it Gerald Gardner? Was he the one that kind of brought forth the concept of the Wheel of the Year, the Wiccan?
I'm not sure.
Is that a Wiccan thing, or is that an older? I heard that was a more current concept.
I think the solstices and equinoxes are
those
what they are.
Those have always been there.
The lesser known ones are pretty newer, modern.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
don't know if he was the one that introduced the wheel, but yeah, what you just said, all the equinoxes and the solstices, those are ancient as far as time can tell. As far as people were worshiping the earth, those go back.
Following the sun and the seasons.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as putting them on a wheel and acknowledging the cycles of the seasons, I don't know if that was like a more current thing with the invention of Wicca by Gerald Gardner. That's what I heard anyway. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
So, putting it out there.
Okay.
So we're going to talk a little bit more folklore right now, the folklore of rabbits and hares, and the symbol of our village. It says go here for a related
Village of Chadford.
Okay, so this is from Terry Windling of terrywindling.com. Wrote this post about the folklore of rabbits and hares, and she says the symbol of our village, Chagford, is rife with rabbits and hares. If you've ever seen 3 hares in a circle, which their interlinked ears form a perfect triangle, this is an image found in roof boss carvings in 17 Devon churches. What are Devon churches?
It's the county.
Okay. So she says they found this image carved, I guess, in the roofs of 17 of the churches in their county, including their own. Known locally as the tinner rabbits, the design was widely believed to be based on an old alchemical symbol for tin, representing the historic importance of tin mining on Dartmoor nearby, until a group of local artists and historians created the 3 Hares Project to investigate the symbol's history.
I've seen this before. Have you seen this? Yeah,
I have.
Common.
I did I think it was a whole issue when I did my Abrazine webzine. It was a whole webzine on art and stuff. And one of the artists that I featured, I think it was in one of my issues called Movement. I think it was the Movement issue, or it might have been the Day of the Dead issue. One of the artists did an art piece of these rabbits and kind of explained, I guess, a quick little explanation of the origins of them. But this is an ancient image.
Very cool.
This image goes back. So these 3 rabbits connect, right? They're in a circle. The 3 of them connect, and they all have 2 ears. But which of the rabbits is the ears protruding from? It's kind of like an optical, isn't it a lot like an optical illusion a little bit?
You're right. Yeah, I never noticed it.
Yeah. So we will post the image of this 3 rabbit triad. We'll post that to our show notes. You guys could check out the image of it. It's really cool. So I guess this 3 Hares Project reports an extraordinary and ancient archetype stretching across diverse religions and cultures, many centuries and many thousands of miles. It is part of the shared medieval heritage of Europe and Asia, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, yet it still inspires creative work among contemporary artists. Like I was saying, that artist that I hosted in one of my magazines did a piece on these rabbits. So it's still making its way into art today. The earliest known examples of the design can be found in Buddhist cave temples in China between 581 and 618 CE. From there, it spread all along the Silk Road through the Middle East, through Hungary and Poland to Germany, Switzerland, and the British Isles.
Wow.
Though now associated with the Holy Trinity in Christian iconography, the original pre-Christian meaning of the 3 hares design has yet to be discovered. But we can glimpse possible interpretations by examining the wealth of the world mythology and folklore involving rabbits and hares. In numerous traditions, these animals were archetypal symbols of women, femininity, female deities, and women's hedgerow magic, associated with the lunar cycle, fertility, longevity, and rebirth. If we dig a little deeper into their stories, we find that they're also contradictory, paradoxical creatures, which is kind of what their ears are. Their ears kind of form this paradox. It's really strange, right? In that image?
Symbol, yeah.
Yeah. So the symbols of both cleverness and foolishness, of femininity and androgyny, of cowardice and courage, of rampant sexuality and virginal purity. In some lands, Hare is the messenger of the great goddess, moving by moonlight between the human world and the realm of the gods. In other lands, he is God himself, a wily deceiver and sacred world creator rolled into one. The association of rabbits, hares, and the moon can be found in numerous cultures the world over, ranging from Japan to Mexico, from Indonesia to the British Isles, whereas in Western folklore, we refer to the man in the moon. The hare, or the rabbit in the moon, is a more familiar image in other societies. Interesting.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. So in China, for example, the hare in the moon is depicted with a mortar and pestle in which he mixes the elixir of immortality. He is the messenger of the female moon deity and the guardian of all wild animals. In Chinese folklore, female hares conceive through the touch of the full moon's light without the need of impregnation by the male. Interesting. That sounds a lot like the Virgin Mary to me.
Sure does.
The Immaculate Conception?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or by crossing water by moonlight or licking moonlight from a male hare's fur. Figures of hares or white rabbits are commonly found at Chinese moon festivals where they represent longevity, fertility, and the feminine power of yin.
In Egyptian myths, hares were also closely associated with the cycles of the moon, which was viewed as masculine when waxing and feminine when waning. Hares were likewise believed to be androgynous, shifting back and forth between the genders, not only in ancient Egypt but also in European folklore right up to the 18th century. A hare-headed god and goddess can be seen on the Egyptian temple walls of Dendera, where the female is believed to be the goddess Unut, or Wenet, while the male is most likely a representation of Osiris, also called Wapuat or Unifer, who is sacrificed to the Nile annually in the form of a hare. Weird.
So do you think the Egyptians, they actually sacrifice a hare?
I think they would.
Like drown a hare in the Nile River as a sacrifice?
I didn't even know rabbits could live there.
Right.
I didn't know that. In Greco-Roman myth, the hare represented romantic love, lust, abundance, fecundity.
Oh, it is a word. So fecundity is the ability to produce offspring, and it can also describe the reproductive rate of an individual organism.
Okay, we'll keep that in, fecundity.
Yeah.
Pliny the Elder recommended the meat of the hare as a cure for sterility and wrote that a meal of hare enhanced sexual attraction for a period of 9 days. Hares were associated with Artemis, goddess of wild places and the hunt, and newborn hares were not to be killed, but left to her protection. I love that.
Yeah.
Rabbits were sacred to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, and marriage, for rabbits had the gift, quote unquote, of Aphrodite, aka fertility, in great abundance. I know. In Greece, the gift of a rabbit was a common love token from a man to his male or female lover. In Rome, the gift of a rabbit was intended to help a barren wife conceive. Craving for rabbits, eating grapes, and figs appeared on both Greek and Roman tombs, where they symbolized the transformative cycle of life, death, and rebirth.
So in Teutonic, so this was a medieval crusader state located in Central Europe along the southeastern shore of the Baltic Sea. So in the Teutonic myth, the earth and sky goddess Holda, leader of the wild hunt, was followed by a procession of hares bearing torches. Although she descended into a witch-like figure and a boogeyman of children's tales, kind of like La Llorona, she was once revered as a beautiful, powerful goddess in charge of weather phenomena. Freya, the headstrong Norse goddess of love, sensuality, and women's mysteries, was also served by hare attendants. She traveled with a sacred hare and a boar in a chariot drawn by cats. So Kaltis, the shape-shifting moon goddess of western Siberia, liked to roam the hills in the form of a hare, and was sometimes pictured in human shape wearing a headdress with hare's ears. Eostra, the goddess of the moon, fertility, and spring of Anglo-Saxon myth, was often depicted with a hare's head or ears, and with the white hare standing in attendance. This magical white hare laid brightly colored eggs which were given out to children during spring fertility festivals, an ancient tradition that survives in the form of the Easter Bunny today. Yeah, I always wonder why the Easter Bunny was laying eggs. Like, what?
There's a couple really good, stories. The one is, it was the goddess's birthday, and all the fucking wilderness forest animals were said to bring her a gift. And the rabbit went looking for something, and he didn't have anything worthwhile except for one egg in his little pantry, and that's all he had. So he decorated that one egg and gave it to her. And she said because he had given her his one possession that he was favored in her eyes.
Aw.
Yeah, I was like, that's so cute.
That sounds like me when I'm trying to make a quiche. Have that one sad little egg.
Oh,
It's a sad little one egg quiche because I don't have any eggs left in my pantry. I like how he just had the one, but just the one little egg.
Yeah.
So cute. So Eostra, the Celtic version of Ostara, was a goddess who also associated with the moon and with mythic stories of death, redemption, and resurrection during the turning of winter to spring. Eostra, too, was a shapeshifter, taking the shape of the hare at each full moon. All hares were sacred to her and acted as her messengers. The author of this said, I should mention that our understanding of the Ostara Eostra myth is controversial, with mythologists divided between those who believe she was and was not a major figure in the British Isles. So Caesar recorded that rabbits and hares were taboo foods to the Celtic tribes. In Ireland, it was said that eating a hare was like eating one's own grandmother.
Oh.
Perhaps due to the sacred connection between hares and various goddesses, warrior queens, and female fairies, or else due to the belief that the old wise women could shapeshift into hares by the moonlight. The Celts use rabbits and hares for divination and other shamanic practices by studying the patterns of their tracks, the rituals of their mating dances, and mystic signs within their entrails. It was believed that rabbits burrowed underground in order to better commune with the spirit world, and that they could carry messages from the living to the dead and from humankind to the fairies.
I love that.
I wonder if they like to hang out near hawthorn trees.
Oh.
Because isn't that the fairy portal?
It's interesting, like they dig. I know many creatures live underground, but they come up,
Yeah.
usually dawn and dusk, right? You don't really see too many out during the day.
I do. I always see them on the side of my house. Yeah, they're always out. But yeah, I think they really like those in-between times too.
Okay.
You do see a lot more, I think, around those times.
As Christianity took hold across Europe, hares and rabbits, so firmly associated with the goddess, came to be seen in a less favorable light, viewed suspiciously as the familiars of witches or as witches themselves in animal form. Numerous folk tales tell of men led astray by hares who were really witches in disguise, or of old women revealed as witches when they are wounded in their animal shape. Just like Maria, they thought Maria was the crow.
Oh, right.
Because she had her arm all bandaged up.
Mm-hmm.
In one well-known story from Dartmoor, a mighty hunter named Bowerman disturbed a coven of witches practicing their rites, and so one young witch, determined to take revenge upon the man, she shapeshifted into a hare, led Bowerman through a deadly bog, then turned the hunter and his hound into a pile of stones, which can still be seen today. The stone formations are known by the names of Hound Tor and Bowerman's Nose. Demonic hares and rabbits are found on cathedral carvings and in forms of Christian sacred art, but we also find the opposite. The pagan three-hare symbol, which we talked about, represents the Holy Trinity, and embellished white rabbits symbolize purity, piety, and the Holy Virgin. Among many Native American story traditions, trickster tales featuring coyote or raven tend to be best known to non-native audiences. But there's also a large number of tales that feature a trickster rabbit or hare, particularly among the Algonquin-speaking people of the central and eastern woodland tribes. Nanabozo or Manabozo, the great hare, for instance, is a powerful figure found in the tales of the Algonquin, Fox, Menwamini, Ottawa, Ojibwa, and Winnebago tribes. In some stories, Nanabozo is a revered culture hero, creator of the earth, benefactor of humankind, the bringer of light and fire, and teacher of sacred rituals. In other tales, he is a clown, a thief, a lecturer, or a cunning predator, an ambivalent, amoral figure dancing on the line between right and wrong.
Quick question. Do you think that was what Bugs Bunny was designed after?
I think we have a bit on him later. I didn't read through it.
Okay.
But there's also the story of Briar Rabbit, too. Isn't he a trickster in the story?
So...
Okay. In Potawatomi myth, Waboso is a great white hare and the younger brother of Nanabozo, who travels north to become the great... I feel like somebody out there is like, that is not how you pronounce it.
We're doing the best we can here.
I keep having to repeat it. I'm so very, very sorry. Who travels north to become the greatest of the magicians along the supernaturals. The Utes tell the story of Tavwas, the little rabbit who shatters the sun and destroys the world, all of which must be created again. And an Omaha rabbit brings the sun down to earth while trying to catch his own shadow. The Cherokee, the Creek, and the Biloxi and other tribes tell humorous stories such as the mischievous rabbit who is cousin to Briar Rabbit and Pompin Yapon, outwitting foes and puncturing the pride of friends with his clownish antics.
Interesting. So yeah, you said Briar Rabbit, and there it is.
There it goes.
So the jackalope legends of the American Southwest are stories of a more recent vintage consisting of purported sightings of rabbits or hares with horns like antelopes. The legend may have been brought to North America by German immigrants, derived from the rorqual or horned rabbit of the German folklore tradition. Do you remember, are you too young to remember, do you remember America's Funniest Home Videos? They had that whole stint with the jackalope.
Yeah, you're right.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So rabbits and hares are both good and bad in trickster tales found all the way from Asia and Africa to North America. In the Panchatantra tales of India, for example, hare is a wily trickster whose cleverness and cunning is pitted against elephant and lion, while in Tibetan folktales, quick-thinking hare outwits the ruses of predatory tiger. In Japan, the fox is the primary trickster animal, but hares too are clever, tricky characters. Hares in Japanese folktales tend to be crafty, clownish, mischievous figures, usually male, as opposed to fox tricksters kitsune, who are more seductive, secretive, and dangerous, usually female. Interesting that the fox in Japanese is kitsune or kitsune, because in one of the pop culture references down below, there is a fox in the game, and its name is Kitsune.
Oh, cool.
I never put the two and two together, but now it makes sense.
There was a movie, I think it's called Pompoko or something. Mm-hmm. Same people who did Kiki's Delivery Service, Totoro. Anyway, it's about raccoons, but towards the end, there's like a secret society of foxes, and all the foxes are dressed like super suave. They're all like shady businessmen.
That's amazing.
Are they all?
Is it called the Kitsune?
I think that actually is what they're referred to as.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're making the connections.
Hell yeah.
So in West Africa, many tribal cultures such as the Yoruba of Nigeria and the Wolof of Senegal have traditional story cycles about an irrepressible hair trickster who is equal parts rascal, clown, and culture hero. In one Pan-African story, the moon sends Hair, her divine messenger, down to earth to give mankind the gift of immortality. Tell them, she says, that just as the moon dies and rises again, so shall you. But Hare, in the role of trickster buffoon, manages to get the message wrong, bestowing mortality instead and bringing death to the human world.
Oh, God.
Wow. The moon is so angry. She beats Hare with a stick, splitting his nose as it remains today. I didn't notice hares have split noses. It is Hare's role to lead the dead to the afterlife in penance for what he's done. African hare stories traveled to North America on the slavers' ships, mixed with rabbit tales of the Cherokee and other tribes, and were transformed into the famous Brer Rabbit stories of the American South. These stories were passed orally among slaves, for whom Brer, also known as Brother Rabbit, was a perfect hero, besting more powerful opponents through his superior intelligence and quicker wits. The Brer Rabbit stories were written down and published by Joel Chandler Harris in the 19th century in a now classic collection narrated by the fictional Uncle Remus. At the same time, the Chandler Harris was recording Brer Rabbit stories from the African American oral tradition. Folklorist Alcée Fortier was setting down the folktales of the Cajun French Creole culture of southern Louisiana, including delightful stories of fast-talking rabbit trickster called Compère Lapin. Isn't that what you said before? Lapin. Dude, you were good with the French. I know nothing about French. Compère Lapin. Like Brer Rabbit or the hares of West African lore, Compère Lapin is a rascal who manages to get himself into all kinds of trouble, and then smoothly finds his way back out again through cleverness and guile. Oh, here we go. Bugs Bunny owes more than a little of his character to this folkloric archetype.
There you go.
There you have it. He's a trickster. So whether hovering above us in the arms of a moon goddess or carrying messages from the netherworld below, whether clever or clownish, hero or rascal, whether portent of good tidings or ill, rabbits and hares have leapt through myths, legends, and folktales all around the world, forever elusive, refusing to be caught and bound by a single definition. The precise meaning, then, of the ancient three-hair symbol carved into our village church is bound to be just as elusive and mutable as the myths behind it. It is a goddess symbol, a trickster symbol, a symbol of the Holy Trinity, a symbol of death, redemption, and rebirth. All these and so much more.
I love that. That's cool.
So that entire article is from terrywindling.com. We will link that below if you guys want to do more reading on that.
We don't have to add this next part because we kind of went over the deities, but it's in there for whoever's interested.
All right, so we could just list them real quick. We don't have to get into all explanations, but we have Eostra, which is Anglo-Saxon, Freya, which is Norse, Hermes, which is Greek, and Wenenut, which is Egyptian. That means defied rabbit-headed goddess.
Cool. I didn't know
female...
Hermes. That's cool. God of the spoken word. The rabbit was sacred to Hermes as a fleet-footed messenger. I wanted to touch on, because you mentioned the passage of the rabbit's foot before, and I didn't add this in. So while you were reading, I was like, I used to have, you can get those at fairs, you can get, whatever. I was like, but
where was yours?
So we have a little, I think can't they like tie dye them? It was like purple blue.
Mine was blue too.
Okay.
I have it around here somewhere. I'm going to find it.
Why? But listen what I found.
Okay.
An old favorite comes in here. Do you see what's right there?
Oh my God. Holy shit. Dude, I was listening back to our Grimoire episode yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Like we discussed, it was a fever dream. That was like over 5 hours of discussion that I just completely don't even remember having. But this whole section was cracking me the fuck up about the Hand of Glory.
We were like, it just fucks them up. You give them a hand, you just chop off their hand and it just fucks them up. So what we're talking about, there's a connection somewhere, but in here we're going to go over about the lucky rabbit's foot and this Hand of Glory, which we talked about in our Book of Shadows. I think that was the last episode that had just came out when this
the Grimoire episode. Yeah, but what? Okay, tell me about this connection. Now, my interest is piqued.
So, a lucky rabbit's foot has a strange but true history. In 1584, people carried around rabbit's foot to spare themselves from arthritis and cramping. Nobody is sure why this was a popular thought, but we can piece together some of the later details to form a cohesive history of the strange but true story of the lucky rabbit's foot. All right, we're going to jump to that Hand of Glory real quick. So, the Hand of Glory, as a reminder, was any man who was hanged was basically dubbed a Hand of Glory during the Middle Ages, when executions in the street were popular. The victim's corpse would be hung in the streets to deter others from committing the crimes. And we kind of went over that they would sometimes take the hand that did the deed, the killing or whatever, the stealing, and they would turn that into a sympathetic magic, using it for their magic.
They would pickle it, right? They would pickle the hand
and dry it. A practice between the corpses and the population was that their left hand would be cut off and pickled, there we go, for luck related to supernatural phenomena. This belief may have paved the way for the development of the lucky rabbit's foot lore. Gruesome actions remain associated with the rabbit's foot throughout the rest of its history, and the history of the rabbit as a representation of evil was popular in the medieval ages. It was seen as both the hard path to finding salvation as well as seen as a symbol of lust because of the rabbit's breeding habits. These beliefs stem from the uncleanliness of the rabbit in the Old Testament. That doesn't mean that the rabbit was always seen as evil. In tales and paintings about Jesus, he is often depicted as surrounded by white rabbits. Again, I don't remember seeing any of these. These white rabbits symbolize purity and innocence, which is quite opposite of the Old Testament interpretation.
Wow.
So interesting. So they went from taking a Hand of Glory, pickling a dead man's hand, the person who had been hanging in the streets to deter other people from doing that evil deed, and putting that wearing that, having that in their house as good luck, to then using a rabbit's foot is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess as society became more civilized, they're like, shit, we can't pickle hands anymore. Now we gotta just chop off the foot of a rabbit instead. All right, cool.
Yeah,
I love it. So we're going to talk about some history of witchcraft and the rabbit's foot. A means of finding witches were associated with the rabbit's foot, which made it a lucky kill if it happened to be a witch in disguise. In the early 1800s, witches were believed to take form of a rabbit. So rabbits were killed so their feet could be used as talismans or objects with magical powers. They died in a way that's suitable for supernatural beings. So interesting that they would use these talismans as good luck because they thought they were actually the feet of witches.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Others wanted the rabbit's foot to be cut off while the rabbit was alive. This is so that any witch they caught would also have the injury in real life, which makes them identifiable, which you mentioned, the Maria with her arm, and like if she was actually the crow, then her wing would have been injured because, yeah,
Totally.
making the connections.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. So in the 1930s, people chased animals around purposefully to injure them if they thought they were a witch in town. And hunting animals like rabbits and cats, they thought that they were doing a service to their community. In Wales, it was believed sometimes, I'm sorry, I was just like thinking like in today's society, how we call those people Karens, like they think they're doing a service to society, but really they're just like, okay, you need to go back into whatever hole you crawled out of because you're just pissing people off. I apologize to anybody actually named Karen. I did not mean to offend anybody named Karen, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In Wales, it was believed sometime in the late 1800s to early 1900s that shooting a rabbit with a silver bullet would make a witch die wherever they were. Tales like this are also recorded in America around this time frame.
That's fucking convenient.
Yeah.
So a little bit of Black history and the rabbit's foot. So enslaved African Americans saw rabbit's feet as an embodiment of cleverness, though that cleverness could be good or evil. It was modeled after a popular folktale that involved a, what's that? Conniving yet powerful rabbit. Thank you. Due to the injustices that enslaved Americans and their freed descendants endured, the idea of cleverness, cunning, and superiority in the face of oppressive forces was a powerful message. The point of the rabbit's foot was not to bring general luck, but was specifically meant to bring luck in defending yourself against a subversive American culture. In the 1800s, rabbit charms were being sold across the Black sections of New Orleans. They had rituals attached to them that made the charm special, which involved the moon, how the rabbit was dispatched, by whom, and making sure that it was the left foot, left hand.
Mm-hmm.
This concept of ritual around the rabbit's foot was also marketed to Europeans. So there you
go. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about now. Kristina told us before that we are in the year of the rabbit, and I had no idea. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. I was going to let you take it away, but okay. Yeah. So the year of the rabbits include, this is going to go backwards, 2023, 2011, 1999, 1987, 75, 63, 51, 39, 27, so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So 2023 is the year of the water rabbit, starting from January 22nd, 2023, which is, I guess, the start of the Chinese New Year, and ending on February 9th, 2024, next year. The sign of the rabbit is a symbol of longevity, peace, and prosperity in Chinese culture. And 2023 is predicted to be a year of hope. So far, so good.
Yeah, I hope so.
Busy. So far, so good, though. People born in the year of the rabbit are called rabbits and are believed to be vigilant, witty, quick-minded, and ingenious. The rabbit is the fourth of all zodiac animals. Legend has it that the rabbit was proud, arrogant even, of its speed. He was neighbors with the ox and always made fun of how slow ox was. One day, the Jade Emperor said the zodiac order would be decided in the order in which the animals arrived at his party. Rabbit set off at daybreak, but when he got there, no animals were in sight. Thinking that he would obviously be first, he went off to the side and napped. However, when he woke, 3 other animals had already arrived. One of them was ox. He had always looked it down upon. The rabbit is associated with the earthly branch and the hours 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the morning. In the terms of yin and yang, the rabbit is yin.
Didn't you say that? The rabbits are like those dawn and dusk animals?
But then I thought you mentioned that it's yin, it's feminine, right? Because yang is masculine. Okay.
Yeah. And also, I thought this passage was interesting because it reminds me a lot of the more Western Aesop's fables about the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
How the tortoise was like talking up this big game, and then ultimately he wanted to take a nap because he thought he was all ahead of the tortoise, and then the tortoise wins. So it reminded me of that a little bit. I guess
totally.
We're all sharing the same kind of stories. They're just passed on.
I love that.
Culture, generation to generation. So
rabbits are earnest with everything they do. They just ask that others treat them the same way. In Chinese culture, rabbits represent the moon. Some say it's because the shadow of the moon resembles a rabbit. Others say it's because of the rabbit's pure characteristics. Paired with the celestial stems, there are, y'all can look up this stuff on your own. There are a 60-year calendar cycle. Although Mao is associated with metal, the year also cycles through the 5 elements of nature.
Cool.
Ooh. Just the little personalities and characteristics. To the outsider, the rabbit's kindness may make them seem soft and weak. In truth, a rabbit's quiet personality hides their confidence and strength. They are steadily moving toward their goal, no matter what negativity the others give them. With their good reasoning skills and attention to detail, they make great scholars. They are socializers with an attractive aura. However, they find it hard to open up to others and often turn to escapism. A plan and routine life is not their style. Though conservative and careful in their actions, they need surprises every so often to spice things up.
Dude, are they just talking about a Sagittarius?
I was thinking the same thing.
That just sounds like me to a T.
Yeah, but none of that. You weren't born in the year of the rabbit, though, huh?
I was not. No, I wasn't. But I was just like, I was thinking all those characteristics sound exactly like.
That's funny.
I just resonated with that so hard. We hope you enjoyed all that folklore and all the magic and witchcraft behind the rabbit and all the symbolism along with that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to go down another rabbit hole. We're going to talk about all of the rabbits in literature and movies. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Magnolia Street Podcast.
Welcome back. We're going to talk about some rabbit symbolism in literature and media. And there's a lot. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of rabbits prevalent in literature and media. But what do they symbolize? This is from rabbitcaretips.com.
Did you say prevalent?
Prevalent. Is it prevalent?
That's fine. I'm rubbing off on you.
Prevalent.
Make it up. Why don't you?
Moffat. So what do rabbits symbolize in literature and movies? This comes from rabbitcaretips.com, and this says the nature of literature means that rabbits can symbolize many things depending on the author's intentions. From pet rabbits to spirit animals, literature provides the most diverse rabbit symbology anywhere. There are symbolizations, however, which are far more common, and these include kindness and tenderness, fertility, rebirth, luck, and spiritual exploration, which we discussed some of those themes earlier before. For example, in the classic novel of Mice and Men, the rabbit symbolizes Lenny's dreams for the future, prosperity, kindness, and serenity in a place of their own. Rabbits also symbolize the impossibility of this dream being fulfilled. Rabbits are flighty creatures which slip through the fingers of even the most skilled hunter, enter Elmer Fudd. For Lenny, the pastoral dream that the rabbits represent is as elusive and fragile as the wild animals themselves. By contrast, the rabbits in Jordan Peele's horror film, Us, represents the rebirth, which the tethered seek on the surface world. More than that, they symbolize the way in which they aim to seek their rebirth. By eating the rabbits raw, the tethered sustain themselves and their dream. By killing Adelaide and her family, they will realize those dreams. Did you ever see that movie? I don't think I ever saw that one.
I wanted to, but I'm scared.
Yeah. Looks good.
I'm scared.
All right, so then the most classic example of a rabbit as a symbol in literature, however, is found in Alice in Wonderland. The white rabbit symbolizes not only rebirth, but acts as a psychopomp, a guide between the worlds, which is what we also said before. For Alice, the white rabbit is a guide leading her into this new chapter of her life. Rabbits are animals of duality in literature, religion, and mythology, and often symbolize a link between the human world and the spiritual world. And Alice, she ends up going down that rabbit hole, right? I guess that's where the term comes from, going down the rabbit hole, following that curiosity, and who knows where it's going to take you.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at some rabbit symbolism in other media. So we already mentioned Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. One of the most notable examples in that story by Lewis Carroll is the White Rabbit, which is prominent. It's a prominent character in that book. Mm-hmm. It represents her curiosity, adventure, and a journey into the unknown. Not being
always late though.
Yeah, he always.
But he was late to the party in the Chinese, thing too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's just the typical.
Interesting.
They're always in a hurry, but always still always late.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it represents her journey into the unknown. And oftentimes journeying into the unknown can be a very scary thing, right? But Alice approaches it with kind of like the Fool of the tarot card, right?
Totally.
I'm trying to think. Oh, it was a white dog in the Rider-Waite that's kind of pulling the guy's
But
ankle.
that'd be cute if it was a white rabbit.
It would be cute if that was
I'm
white
positive
rabbit.
there's an Alice in Wonderland tarot deck out there too.
With the white rabbit on the Fool card.
Yeah.
That'd be lit.
That'd be lit. Okay, this next one real quick. You say you watch this all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like one of your cat's comfort movies. I watched this in high school and this shit is fucked up. Like this movie is so fucking bananas.
It is fucked up, but
so tell us what this is.
Okay, so right now we're going to talk about Watership Down. Funny, real quick, one of our patrons, it might have been Amber, I forget who it was. I saw one of our patrons on Instagram did a post about Watership Down, and I had to comment, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's Punky's favorite movie." So
I love that your cat has a comfort movie.
Yeah, so she was actually just watching that, so
okay.
I thought that was funny. So Watership Down is an adventure novel by English author Richard Adams, published by Rex Collings Ltd. Of London in 1972. Set in Hampshire in southern England, the story features a small group of rabbits. Although they live in their natural wild environment, with burrows, they are anthropomorphized, possessing their own culture, language, proverbs, poetry, and mythology. Evoking epic themes, the novel follows the rabbits as they escape the destruction of their warren and seek a place to establish a new home, which is the Hill of Watership Down. Encountering perils and temptations along the way, this novel portrays rabbits as intelligent, sensitive creatures with strong bonds of leadership qualities. This book also utilizes, quote, Lapine, which is a fictional language created by the author, Richard Adams, for the novel, which is spoken by the rabbit characters. The language was again used in Adams's 1996 sequel, Tales from Watership Down, and has appeared in both the film and television adaptations. The language fragments in the book consist of a few dozen distinct words used mainly for the naming of the rabbits, their mythological characters, and objects in their world. And the name Lapine comes from the French word for rabbit. And
so it's not Lepon. I guess it has an E at the end, so it would be different, but yeah, usually.
It might be Lepon. I don't know anything about French. But one of the words that I remember, like one of the Lapine words, is rodida.
Rodida?
Can you guess what that is?
Rodida? Like a rutabaga?
What is a rutabaga? Is that a car?
It's a vegetable.
It's a vegetable. Why do I think everything with a root? Okay, see, I guess that's why I made the connection and thought a rotor-rooter guy was a mechanic, because a rodida in Lapine means a car.
Oh, because they kind of make that noise.
Yeah. So when the rabbits are trying to cross the road, they're like, "Look out for the rodida!"
Oh my god, that's adorable.
A car coming down the road.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have
guy.
Really cute. Really cute. I mean, it is a really fucked up movie. It's like the rabbits are, they're killing each other. There's death. It gets very dark for a kids movie.
Yeah,
I must say.
Yeah.
But it is cute. They have their own little language, and like the animated, the new one anyway. Beautiful animation.
Cool.
Beautiful. And we'll talk about that right now. So there have been many screen adaptations of the novel, but the most notable ones are the 1979 animated film in the traditional animation style, like how we see the old Disney classics animated in that style. Then there was the more recent 2018 CGI animated limited one-season miniseries that the BBC produced for Netflix. And this was what I was talking about before. It stars the voices of James McAvoy as Hazel, John Boyega as Bigwig, and Ben Kingsley as General Woundwort.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. One more thing that I want to mention, which you mentioned before, is that the BBC show on Netflix, the BBC version, is Punky's, my cat's, absolute favorite show. So when he was a kitten, and he was getting a little rambunctious and stuff, I would put it on, and it would just calm him down. He would just sit there.
Funny. He's just watching them.
He would just watch the bunnies on the screen, and he just loved it. So I do have another connection that I want to mention about Watership Down. So the first time I ever heard of the novel was actually a couple years ago. Actually, it might have actually been last year. It was because of Vanessa Carlton's fourth studio album, Rabbits on the Run. I had heard of this album some years ago, I guess when she first released it, but I didn't really start listening to it until like last year. For some reason, I was just like looking for spring music, and that album just gave me such a spring kind of vibe. So I was like, let me go down the rabbit hole and look more into this album.
Okay.
So this is Vanessa Carlton's 4th studio album titled Rabbits on the Run. It was released on July 26, 2011 through Razor and Tie Records. In February 2011, Vanessa posted a video to her website where she said that she wanted to capture a creepy, honest, dreamy, fantastical sound with Rabbits on the Run, a title and concept inspired by books like Stephen Hawking's A Brief History in Time and Richard Adams's Watership Down. So the line "White Rabbits on the Run" in her song Carousel, that's from the lyrics on her first single on that album. So this song was covered by guess who?
Who?
Stevie McFudgin Nicks.
Shut up!
It's all connected!
It's all connected!
So Stevie fell in love with this song when Vanessa played it for her. So Vanessa went to Stevie Nicks' house for Christmas one year. And Stevie, there's a link here that I added. Stevie tells a story about when she first heard Vanessa play the song. She asked Vanessa to play a Christmas song. And Vanessa goes, I'm Jewish. She didn't know any Christmas songs. So then Stevie was like, well, then just play anything. Play whatever. So she played Carousel, which was her first single off of her Rabbits on the Run album. And Stevie fell in love with it. And Stevie tells a story about how she fell in love with the song on the Sunset Sessions on YouTube, which is the link that I have here. We'll link it in our show notes if you guys want to go watch Stevie tell the story. It's very cute. Mm-hmm. So Stevie then actually went on to cover Vanessa's song, Carousel, for her 24 Karat Gold album that she released in 2014, where Vanessa is also singing the backing vocals.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I know the line in the Carousel song. It's just freaking weird. That somehow it's connected with this, and we just did the Stevie Nicks episode not that long ago.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Watership Down, right?
Watership Down.
Who knew? So as a result, I became obsessed with this story. I listened to it on audiobook last year while I was gardening. It just put me in such like a springtime kind of mood. So cute. Go watch it. It's on I think it's still up on Netflix, the BBC version.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so speaking of Stevie Nicks and It's All Connected, we talked a little bit about Stevie's influences in episode 25. If you want to go back and listen to that, the entire episode is about Stevie Nicks. But one of her influences that she spoke about significantly in this biography that we used as a reference was Grace Slick of the famous 60s and 70s rock group Jefferson Airplane, whose most famous single was what?
White Rabbit.
White Rabbit.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. So according to Wikipedia, White Rabbit is one of Grace Slick's earliest songs written during December 1965 or January 1966, somewhere in between there. It uses imagery found in the fantasy works of Lewis Carroll, 1865's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and its 1871 sequel, Through the Looking Glass, such as changing size after taking pills or drinking an unknown liquid. So Slick first wrote the lyrics. She wrote the lyrics first, then composed the music at a red upright piano she had bought for $50 with 8 or 10 keys missing. She said that was okay because I could hear in my head the notes that weren't there, moving between major chords for the verses and chorus. She said that the music was heavily influenced by Miles Davis's 1960 album Sketches of Spain, particularly Davis's treatment of the Concierto de Aranjuez in 1939. She later said writing weird stuff about Alice, backed by a dark Spanish march, was in step with what was going on in San Francisco at that time. We're all trying to get as far away from the expected as possible. Slick said that the composition was supposed to be a slap to parents who read their children such novels and then wondered why their children later used drugs. Right? She later commented that all fairy tales read to little girls have a Prince Charming who comes and saves them, but Alice did not. She was on her own in a very strange place, but she kept on going and she followed her curiosity, and that's what the White Rabbit is. A lot of women could have taken a message from that story about how you can push your own agenda. Slick added that the line in the song Feed Your Head is both about reading and psychedelics, feeding your head by paying attention, and read some books and pay attention is what she says. Characters Slick referenced include Alice, the White Rabbit, the hookah-smoking caterpillar, the White Knight, the Red Queen, and the Dormouse. Slick reportedly wrote the song after an acid trip.
No shit.
Surprise, surprise. For Slick, White Rabbit is about following your curiosity. The White Rabbit is your curiosity. For her and others in the 1960s, drugs were a part of a mind expansion and social experimentation. With its enigmatic lyrics, White Rabbit became one of the first songs to sneak drug references past censors on the radio.
Wow.
Even Marty Balin, Slick's eventual rival in Jefferson Airplane, regarded the song as a masterpiece. In interviews, Slick has related that Alice in Wonderland was often read to her as a child and remained a vivid memory well into her adulthood. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Slick mentioned that in addition to Alice in Wonderland, her other inspiration for the song was Ravel's Bolero. Like Bolero, White Rabbit is essentially one long crescendo. The music combined with the song's lyrics strongly suggests the sensory distortions experienced with hallucinogens, and the song was later used in pop culture to imply or accompany such a state. The song was first played by the Great Society in a bar in San Francisco in early 1966, and later when they opened the bill for bigger bands like the Grateful Dead. They made a series of demo records for Autumn Records, for which they were assisted by Sly Stone. Grace Slick said, "We were so bad that Sly eventually played all the instruments so the demo would sound okay." When Slick joined Jefferson Airplane in 1966, she taught the song to the band who recorded it for their album Surrealistic Pillow. White Rabbit is in the key of F sharp, which Slick acknowledges is difficult for guitar players as it requires some intricate fingering. So, just interesting bits about that song. Never looked into that far too much, but
I did not know any of that.
right, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about some of these next ones?
I do. I was searching for something because I kind of spotted what we were going to talk about next, and I was like, it's all connected.
You went down the rabbit hole.
And I just wanted to see what episode it popped up in. So let me scroll back down. Let us talk a little bit about Peter Rabbit.
Okay.
And so the character created by Beatrix Potta, does that sound familiar? Is an iconic rabbit character representing mischief, curiosity, and the joy of exploration. We managed to talk about Beatrix Potter in episode 3, the Death Watch Beetle episode, because she has another poem about the Death Watch Beetle.
Oh shit!
It's all connected!
It's all connected!
So I just wanted to look that up really quick. This next film I saw in high school, not clear-minded, so I don't really remember what it's about. But we're going to talk about Frank, who is the creepy rabbit from Donnie Darko. So Frank the Rabbit is commonly referred to simply as Frank, and is a central character and a main antagonist in Donnie Darko, who is one of the primary forces setting in motion the events of the film. Frank first appears at the beginning of the movie on the night of October 2nd, waking Donnie from his sleep and luring him outside of his house. Frank, a mysterious figure, appears as a humanoid nightmarish rabbit who informs Donnie of an impending disaster which will occur within 28 days, stating that is when the world will end, before disappearing and leaving Donnie to wake up the next day in a golf course. Donnie returns home to discover that a massive jet engine had fallen into his house to his bedroom. So I guess crashed. So he would have been sleeping there.
Yeah.
Throughout October 1988, Frank appears to Donnie at various points in time, taking the same form of a monstrous humanoid rabbit, instructing Donnie to do various things throughout the month, such as flooding the school and burning Jim Cunningham's house down, get another character, all while maintaining a secretive, ominous attitude and constantly mentioning the approaching quote-unquote end of the world. Frank appears yet again on Halloween night as Donnie and Gretchen Ross are being assaulted and threatened by the school bullies. A car speeds toward them from a nearby road, scaring the bullies off. As Gretchen lays on the ground, the speeding car runs her over and kills her. The car stops. Do you remember this movie?
Yeah.
I feel like this is your thing.
I love this movie.
I feel like I should just let you read this, but the car stops and the two occupants exit, because you probably have more to, like, are you gonna, we have plenty to,
yeah.
The car stops and the two occupants exit to examine what has happened. The driver is revealed to be Frank. However, rather than donning his mysterious, paranormal, doom-predicting persona, he appears to be a normal human version of himself, wearing the rabbit suit as a Halloween costume, who was simply going out for a beer. Okay. Frank's friend emerges from the vehicle, and the two panic at the situation. After realizing Gretchen is dead, Donnie impulsively avenges her by shooting Frank through the eye with his father's pistol, which he obtained earlier in the film. Frank's friend flees in the opposite direction while Frank himself lays lifeless on the road. Another Frank wearing a full rabbit costume is visible throughout this scene, standing mysteriously among the bushes and watching these events unfold. It is later revealed that Frank was a normal human resident of Middlesex and Elizabeth Darko's boyfriend, who, after being killed, became one of the manipulated dead, paranormal, time-traveling entities who manifest as those who died during the events of the Tangent universe, and those who are tasked with guiding living receivers. So they're also guides.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, Donnie on their purpose to fix corruption in time and space. When Frank was shot dead on October 31st, he became one of these entities and traveled back in time to October 2nd and began appearing to Donnie in this form, thus explaining why Frank appears as both a casual normal person and a supernatural being.
So is that like a paradox, would you say?
Yeah, time travel.
Dude, do you
Time
think
jumper.
Billy Zane is one of the manipulated dead?
Yes.
And what is this tangent universe?
No, we're not doing that.
We're not going down the rabbit hole.
We're not doing that.
I'm gonna look into this myself. I will let you know if I find anything.
Okay.
I'm fascinated. If you guys want to go down that Donnie Darko rabbit hole, I will link this website below. It's from wakeupdonnie.fandom.com. It's a whole wiki page on all of the happenings of that movie. Anyway, next we talk about Bugs Bunny. In popular culture, Bugs Bunny is a well-known rabbit character that has entertained generations with his wit and humor, and the character embodies cleverness, resourcefulness, playfulness, kind of all the characteristics that we kind of touched on before with the Brer Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
We think maybe Bugs Bunny was based on him a little bit.
And like one of the first cartoons I ever saw where a quote-unquote male or androgynous cartoon dresses in women's clothes.
True.
He's LGBT friendly.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not going to get too into Bugs Bunny because we got into him a little bit more before.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have rabbits are a big motif in Harry Potter. I have a whole Harry Potter fandom wiki page here as well. This is also a rabbit hole that we don't have to get into because this is also its own storyline. And Harry Potter's just a lot. So okay. I don't know if we want to get into all that, but basically rabbits are small mammals in the family Leporidae of the order Lagomorpha, found in several parts of the world. And rabbits, if needed to be dispatched by Magick, were particularly vulnerable to Vermilius, as well as the fire-making spell in Harry Potter. The Lapperforce spell could be used to transform small objects and creatures into rabbits. It was taught to third-year students in the Transfiguration class at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
Year 3, baby.
Yeah, so if conjuration was not performed correctly, mistakes such as a frog-rabbit hybrid could occur. This picture is really funny. I'll have to show that to you.
I see it. Oh, that's weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, so the rabbit was possible corporeal form of the patroness charm, including the wild rabbit. Helen Thistlewood had her patroness assume rabbit form. And then lastly, the fictitious Babbity Rabbity in Babbity Rabbity and Her Cackling Stump from the Tales of Beetle the Bard was a witch and animagus who could transform into a rabbit at will. So lots of stuff on this wiki page about rabbits. If you guys want to go down your own rabbit hole and check this out, we will link this down below as well. Next up is the Marquis de Hoto, which is, I've mentioned this game on this podcast before. It's called Night of the Rabbit. It's one of my favorite point and click adventure games. The Marquis de Hoto is one of two main characters. He's an anthropomorphized, upright albino rabbit wearing a coat. He is a tree walker. He uses magic. He uses spells to travel between parallel universes, as we've talked about before, rabbits being those travelers between worlds. He's first introduced to the protagonist, Jeremiah Hazelnut, when he appears out of nowhere in response to Jerry's creation of a carrot flame recipe. He offers Jerry the opportunity to become his apprentice and travel to a parallel universe to learn magic and become a true tree walker. And now this is kind of blending worlds between presto changeo magic and practical magic, like Alice did in her books.
Cool.
This game kind of incorporates both. Jeremiah Hazelnut wants to be a magician, like
that
a presto
name is
change
adorable
magician. And then this rabbit comes and he's like, I'm going to teach you real magic.
Okay.
So it's really, really cute. One of my favorite games. And throughout the game, the Marquis de Hoto, this white rabbit, acts as a mentor and guide for Jerry, teaching him about portal trees and the different worlds they can access. However, it is revealed that the Marquis had a dark past as the last apprentice of the evil magician Zaroff, and that he had become corrupted by darkness.
Oh no.
Yeah, he is revealed to be the memory of the real Marquis de Hodo, who had been sent by the first tree to train a new apprentice in order to combat Zaroff's rise. At the end of the story, the Marquis is forced to stay behind at the first tree, and Jerry promises to never forget him. He is revealed to be the memory of the real Marquis de Hodo, who had been sent by the first tree to train a new apprentice in order to combat Zaroff's rise. The game has an amazing soundtrack. It's one of my favorites. It's composed by Tilo Alperman. The whole soundtrack can be found on Spotify. We will link it below. It's one of my favorites. And it's just a really cute game. It's so cute. I love it. Whenever I want to escape from reality, I'll just go into that little world and just play that game, and just the scenery is beautiful, the animation is beautiful, the music is beautiful. Awesome. It's awesome.
Cool.
And then lastly, we have another podcast called Rabbits Podcast. I've listened to it. It's really good. Back when I started getting into like listening to different podcasts, this was probably the first podcast that I ever listened to.
Oh wow.
It's a pseudo-documentary podcast from producer and writer Terry Miles. And in the show, it's narrated by a character called Carly Parker, and she's searching for her missing friend, Yumiko Takada, and she finds herself in the midst of a decades-old alternate reality game known as Rabbits, or simply The Game. A main feature of the Rabbits podcast is the use of pop culture references, especially to classic video games like Defender and Space Ace.
Oh, Space Ace.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yes. Check this podcast out. It's really fascinating. It's kind of got an air of mystery about it as well, with a bit of like sci-fi and, alternate reality. Mm-hmm. A second season was announced, and its funding was attempted on Kickstarter, but did not reach its goal. It was released on Stitcher Premium on 2021. In the second season, a new narrator, Riley Bennett, investigates the world of, quote, The Game. And a 3-episode spin-off miniseries called The Path was available on Apple in 2021. And a novel set in the Rabbits universe and written by Miles was released on June 8, 2021. And a sequel, The Quiet Room, is due to be published in October 2023.
Hey.
So this has like its own little world building here. It's got like a nice little world.
Awesome.
So check out the Rabbits podcast if you want something a little more sci-fi, a little mysterious. It's really intriguing. It's like addicting. Like at the end of every episode, you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Oh,
Are they going to find her? Are they going to find her? So,
okay.
Yeah.
We have 2 more little thingies, and I wanted to, because I fucking love food, and I've never had this before, but I'm sure some of you have heard of Welsh rabbit before and probably were like, nah, like, ooh, no. I had heard that there was no actual rabbit in it, but I never knew what it was. So I looked it up, and I really want to make it. So Welsh rabbit, if you see it on a menu, I'm on it. I'm on it so hard, because it's a dish consisting of a hot cheese-based sauce served over slices of toasted bread. The original 18th century name for the dish, Welsh rabbit, which was later reinterpreted as rarebit, as the dish contained no rabbit. Variants include English rabbit, Scottish rabbit, buck rabbit, golden buck, and blushing bunny. So to make an English rabbit, you toast a slice of bread, brown on both sides, lay it on a plate before a fire. Pour a glass of red wine over it and let it soak up the wine.
Ooh.
Then cut some cheese, very thin, and lay it very thick. I guess you cut multiple slices of very thin cheese very thickly onto the bread. Layer it.
Yeah.
And then put it in a tin oven before a fire, and it will be toasted and browned presently. Serve it away hot. That's what it says. Or do it thus. Toast the bread and soak it in the wine. Set it before a fire. Cut your cheese in very thin slices. Rub butter over the bottom of the plate. Lay the cheese on. Pour in 2 or 3 spoonfuls of white wine. So you're using red and white wine?
Yeah, and a lot of cheese, it seems.
Okay, this one sounds like just the white wine.
This one sounds like a constipation nightmare.
No, ma'am. This is amazing. Pour in 2 or 3 spoonfuls of white wine, cover it with another plate, set it over a chafing dish or hot coals for 2 or 3 minutes, then stir until done and it's well mixed. You may stir in a little mustard. When it is enough, lay it on the bread. Just brown it with a hot shovel.
Whoa.
Is what it says. So if you do this, if you serve this with an egg on top of it, it's called a buck rabbit or golden buck. So Welsh rarebit, if you serve it with tomato soup or tomatoes, it's called a blushing bunny.
Aw, that's so cute.
Take us through dreams, and then we'll do Brasidia,
Ooh.
and we'll close out this one.
All right, man. So what do rabbits symbolize in dreams? So symbols have great importance in dreams, as many spiritualists and psychologists agree. To see a rabbit in your dreams can signify many things. So most commonly, rabbit symbolizes luck, power, success, emotional abundance or warmth, fertility, or sexual activity. This may seem to be a wide range of symbols, but these meanings cover a variety of situations. How the rabbit presents itself in your dream can also have a huge impact on the supposed meaning. For example, if you were to dream of a rabbit running away from you, it could symbolize someone you love slipping away. Likewise, if the rabbit in your dream bites or scratches you, it could mean that you were dealing with difficulties in your romantic relationship. This changeable symbology has a lot to do with the context of the dream as a whole. Saying white rabbit or rabbit on the first day of the month is supposed to guarantee good luck.
Damn.
I'm gonna try that. Rabbit. It's not the first of the month though. So I'll be sure to try that
on
May
Beltane.
1st. On Beltane. Yeah, there you go. So to dream about a white rabbit symbolizes an upturn in your life and fortunes. However, that's supposedly true only if you are brave and take a leap or hop of faith. Rabbits may be hunted after all, but they are clever, quick, and brave. If they were not, they simply wouldn't survive. White rabbit symbolism. White rabbits are symbolic of love, tenderness, and inner power. Although rabbits are considered lucky animals, white rabbits in particular are symbolic of good luck and impending opportunity. In fact, white rabbits are considered so lucky in European cultures that it's transformed into a kind of blessing. Saying white rabbit or rabbit on the first of the month is supposed to guarantee good luck. This is so repetitive. Moving on to black rabbit symbolism. Just as black rabbits are the inversion of white rabbits, they also have opposing symbolism. Dreaming about black rabbits can be symbolic of stress, depression, feelings of helplessness, and fear. What if your dream doesn't center around a black rabbit, but merely features one? In this case, a black rabbit can signify family troubles, loss, or the need for caution. Interesting, the need for caution, because of Jet, when she does the whole courage, caution tea thing with Isabel.
We mentioned before that they're like the antithesis that they all hold, and the one thing was like caution versus courage, and I was like, oh my god,
it's all connected.
It's all connected.
So black as a color is also symbolic of silence and stillness. This could mean that black rabbits symbolize the peace that comes with being still and silent, or the need to break silence, depending on the context. As with all dreams, most people conclude that your impression of the symbols influence the symbols themselves. Two people can dream about black rabbits and have them symbolize two different things. This all depends on other happenings within the dream and your cultural or personal impression of them. And I think that was also from rabbitcaretips.com.
Oh, cool.
I think.
Okay.
Might be from something else.
Okay. All right. We'll round it out with Brasidia, see what she has to say about rabbits. It looks like she has a couple different like subsections. So rabbit, and then to eat a rabbit, snowshoe rabbit. Not sure what that is. We're going to skip that. Rabbit ears, rabbit punch. Not sure what that is. And rabbit's foot. So, to dream about a rabbit, love will flourish when you least expect it. Romance is in the air. That's it for rabbit.
Really?
But if you eat a rabbit, keep the relationships that are important to you stress-free and work to keep the union together. Do not seek out ways to put distance into a relationship. This union is now stronger than it has ever been and will only improve as time goes by. Do not repeat old patterns or behavior. That's it. Kind of like, whatever.
Yeah. It sounds like she didn't really want to write about rabbits, but her publisher was like, you need to write about rabbits. And
yeah,
so
you got to put something in that R section.
Thanks, Brasidia.
She
never steers us in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that concludes our jump down the rabbit hole.
The word rabbit hole, motif, juxtaposition, it's all connected. Like, how many times did we say in this episode?
We say those things a lot. As me and Kristina have established,
we're very quotable.
We have very quotable. Yeah, we're going to put all these things on t-shirts for you guys, so you can go snatch them up.
Check out our Teespring. There's something already over there. We'll link it below. We're Magnolia Street Podcast. If you want a little merch, We're going to keep adding. And we are at
Magnolia Street Podcast on Instagram. And also, if you want to support the podcast, you could do that for as little as $1 on our Patreon, patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast. For just $1, you can get in on all the Patreon polls, help us decide what topics we want to discuss on the show next. Also, you get a little calendar and a little shout out on the show when you join us. We'll welcome you onto Magnolia Street. For $3, you get our show notes and our after hours posts, any little tidbits we have to add to episodes after we record them. For $5 a month, you get access to our Discord and our private Facebook community. We have one Facebook Live a month and one book club meeting a month, as well as, chit chat in the Discord server. You guys get to mingle with other Practical Magic fans such as yourselves. So it's nice extra way to connect with you guys.
This month, this is going to come out toward the beginning of May. For May's end of the month live, instead of doing a live, we are going to try to figure out a way to do a watch party involving the In Your Dreams docuseries that with Stevie Nicks that we kind of talked about in our Stevie Nicks episode.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that.
I can't wait to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we'll get something on the calendar for that. And then if you guys want to join our $8 tier, we post all our audio visual content to that tier, any kind of extras, any kind of extended bonus cuts, bonus episodes, all the songs that you hear in our Song-a-sode episodes. There's a lot of goodies up on that tier, a lot of juicy extra content if you don't want to stop here at the podcast. We got a lot of stuff up there. And then our $15 tier is the Big Kahuna, and that's our Marco Polo tier, our Wisteria Vine tier. You can send us little personalized chit-chat messages back and forth on the daily.
We really encourage you to leave us a review of some kind. Spotify allows you to leave those stars, but you can also leave the individual reviews per episode. So if there's an episode like you're like, fuck this Billy Zane shit, like just tell us. We probably won't change our ways, but we just like to know what you guys like.
Yeah.
And Apple Podcasts, you can write written reviews, which we would love sharing, as well as like you heard today, somebody was just kind enough to write in to tell us, hey, we like what you're doing. So thank you. And please go leave us a review so other Practical Magic fans can come and find us and hang out on Magnolia Street where Alice Hoffman hangs out.
Yeah, guys. Alice Hoffman herself is up on the Magnolia Street Insta. So we feel a little special. So thanks, Alice.
Thank you, Alice. All of our socials, all of our links and sources will be in the description below
via our hero page. So I think that's all we got for you guys today.
Okay.
We hope you joined us jumping down the rabbit hole, and never stop exploring, never stop searching for knowledge, because that's curiosity. It gets the best of me. I don't know what it is.
In your head.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. I'm Justina.
I'm Kristina.
And we'll see you next time.
That was so tame. And we'll see you next time.
I forgot our game.
And we'll see you next time.
At that house down the street. At that house on Magnolia Street. Would you go down to